Tonight, we are walking beneath a sky filled with ancient stars, where mountain winds drift through dark cypress trees, and the distant sea murmurs against rocky shores. Before we begin, if you find comfort in these journeys through the ancient world, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. And if you wish, share your location and local time in the comments below. It is always remarkable to see where fellow travelers are listening from as the night settles around them. Now, allow the noise of the modern world to fade. The torches are lit, the sacred fires are burning, and high above the sleeping earth, the gods are watching. Far beyond the clouds, beyond the reach of mortal ships and eagles, stands Olympus, the shining mountain of the immortals. Tonight, you enter a story whispered for more than 2,000 years. It is the story of a child who would become the greatest hero Greece ever imagined. Yet it begins not with triumph. It begins with a mystery. For why would the king of the gods create a son destined to suffer more than any other? The night air is cool as you stand upon a hillside overlooking ancient Greece. Below, scattered villages glow with small fires. Shepherds guide their flocks towards stone enclosures. Fishermen pull boats onto pebbled beaches. Smoke rises gently into the darkness, carrying the scent of olive wood and roasted grain. Above everything stretches the immense sky. The Greeks often looked upward and imagined that divine eyes were watching from beyond the stars. Every flash of lightning belonged to Zeus. Every storm carried his authority. Every oath was spoken beneath his gaze. To them, the world was alive. Mountains possessed spirits. Rivers remembered ancient gods. Groves sheltered unseen powers. The boundary between mortal and divine was never entirely secure. And on this particular night, that boundary feels thinner than ever. High upon Olympus, Zeus sits upon his throne. The great halls of the gods shimmer with golden firelight. Marble columns rise toward vaulted ceilings hidden among clouds. Ambrosia perfumes the air. Immortal voices echo through endless chambers. Yet the ruler of heaven appears thoughtful. A strange silence surrounds him. Far below, human lives unfold like countless flickering candles. Most will burn briefly and disappear into memory, but not all. Now and then, a single life changes everything. The Greeks loved such stories. They believed extraordinary individuals could bridge the gap between gods and mortals. Heroes stood between ordinary humanity and divine power. Through courage, suffering, and impossible deeds, they became examples for generations yet unborn. Zeus understands this, perhaps more clearly than any other god. The king of Olympus has witnessed ages rise and vanish. He remembers the terrible war against the Titans. He remembers the thunder of battle shaking heaven itself. He remembers prophecy, always prophecy. For the gods themselves are never entirely free from fate. Ancient poets often described fate as something older than Olympus. Even Zeus, master of storms, could not always escape what destiny intended. And tonight, destiny is stirring once more. Some traditions tell of a prophecy known only to a few immortals. Others preserve different versions. Historians continue to debate how early these stories emerged. Yet many ancient storytellers shared the same essential belief. A child was coming, a child whose strength would surpass all mortals, a child who would protect gods and humans alike, but also a child whose life would be marked by suffering. Perhaps that contradiction is what fascinated Greek audiences most. Strength and sorrow, glory and pain, victory and loss. These opposites rarely traveled separately in Greek myth. The sea breeze grows stronger. You begin walking along an ancient road lined with olive trees. Their twisted trunks cast long shadows beneath moonlight. Crickets sing among the grasses. Far ahead stands a small shrine. Its stone altar glows beneath a single flame. An elderly priest tends the fire. He watches the stars carefully. The Greeks often searched the heavens for signs. A comet, an eclipse, an unusual constellation. Such events could carry divine meaning. Tonight the priest notices something strange. A brilliant light appears briefly near the horizon. Not lightning, not a star. Something else. It fades quickly. Perhaps it means nothing. Or perhaps it means everything. No one can know. That uncertainty lives at the heart of ancient mythology. The future always approaches hidden behind veils. Mortals glimpse fragments, gods glimpse more. Yet neither sees the entire design. Meanwhile, far away in the city of Thebes, another thread of destiny quietly unfolds. Thebes is one of Greece's oldest cities. Massive walls surround its streets. Palaces rise above crowded marketplaces. Sacred temples overlook public squares where merchants, soldiers, and travelers gather. At night, the city settles into silence. Oil lamps flicker behind wooden shutters. Dogs wander narrow lanes. Guardians pace along stone battlements. Most people sleep peacefully. They do not realize that their city stands near the center of a coming legend. Within Thebes lives a woman named Alcmene. Her name is not yet famous. No poets sing of her. No statues honor her. She is simply a noble woman, descended from heroes. Yet ancient blood runs through her family. Blood that reaches back toward Perseus, the slayer of monsters. The Greeks cared deeply about ancestry. Lineage connected individuals to larger stories. Families preserved memories across generations. Heroes inherited not only names, but expectations. And Alcmene's ancestry carries both. She is admired for wisdom, respected for virtue, known for unusual dignity. Even among noble households, such qualities attract attention. Perhaps that is why Zeus notices her. Or perhaps another force guides events. Ancient traditions offer different explanations. Some suggest divine desire. Others emphasize destiny. Another interpretation survives among later writers who believe the birth of great heroes required both mortal excellence and divine intervention. Whatever the reason, invisible currents begin moving around Alcmene's life. She cannot yet perceive them. How could she? The future remains hidden. Yet signs continue appearing. A strange dream disturbs a servant. An owl calls repeatedly from a temple roof. A sacrificial flame suddenly burns unusually bright. Small things, easy to dismiss. Yet ancient listeners knew such details mattered. The world of myth rarely announces itself loudly at first. Instead it whispers, then waits. Far above, Zeus rises from his throne. The halls of Olympus fall silent. Even the immortals seem to sense a change approaching. The king of the gods walks toward the edge of heaven. Clouds drift beneath him. The earth stretches far below. Countless lives continue unaware. But one life draws his attention. One household, one future mother, one unborn child. The prophecy stirs again like distant thunder beyond the horizon. And though no mortal hears it, clearly fate has already begun moving its pieces across the board of the world. The greatest hero of Greece is not yet born, yet his shadow has already fallen across history. The night deepens over Greece. Moonlight spreads across valleys and hillsides like silver water. Far below the stars, villages sleep beneath thatched roofs. Olive groves sway gently in the wind. Somewhere in the darkness, waves roll against distant shores, keeping an ancient rhythm older than memory. You continue along the winding paths of myth, and as the story moves forward, you find yourself drawn into a lineage stretching far into the past. For before Heracles can be born, you must first understand the house from which he will emerge. The Greeks believed that families carried more than blood. They carried destiny. They carried blessings and burdens. They carried promises made long before their children entered the world. And few family lines carried greater weight than the descendants of Perseus. Even now, generations after his death, stories of Perseus still travel between marketplaces and harbor taverns. Traveling singers tell of his journey across dangerous seas. Temple priests recount his victory over the terrible Gorgon. Children listen wide-eyed beside evening fires. His name has become larger than life itself. Yet the Greeks understood something important about heroes. Their stories never truly end. The consequences of their actions continue flowing through future generations, like ripples spreading across still water. And so beneath the stars, the legacy of Perseus remains alive. You can almost imagine the old hero standing upon a rocky shoreline, sword in hand, gazing toward horizons no mortal had yet explored. Many generations separate him from Heracles, yet the connection remains. The family line endures. Within that line appears a man named Amphitryon. He is brave, respected, skilled in warfare. But like many figures in Greek mythology, his life has not unfolded peacefully. A tragedy shadows his past. Different traditions describe the event differently. Some researchers believe these variations reflect centuries of oral storytelling. Yet most versions agree on one point: a death occurred. Whether accidental or destined remains uncertain. And because of that death, Amphitryon found himself forced into exile. Exile was one of the deepest fears in ancient Greece. A person without a homeland lost more than property. They lost community, protection, identity, the sacred connection to ancestors. Yet, exile often appears in myth because it creates transformation. Heroes rarely remain where they begin, and neither does Amphitryon. His path eventually leads him to Thebes. There, beneath towering walls and watchful temples, he begins building a new life. But another presence soon enters the story: Alcmene, the woman whom Zeus has already begun to notice, the woman whose name will echo through history, the woman destined to become the mother of Heracles. As you walk through the moonlit city, you sense why ancient storytellers admired her. Alcmene is not remembered for extraordinary strength, nor for magical powers. Her reputation rests upon character. She embodies virtues the Greeks deeply respected: patience, loyalty, wisdom, honor. Such qualities may appear quiet beside the thunder of gods and monsters. Yet ancient audiences understood their value. Without them, no household could survive. No kingdom could endure. No hero could be properly raised. Alcmene and Amphitryon eventually become husband and wife. Their union appears strong, built upon mutual respect rather than mere convenience. And for a time, their future seems clear. Yet fate rarely follows simple roads, especially when Zeus begins watching. The king of Olympus remains thoughtful. The prophecy has not left his mind. Ancient storytellers preserve several versions of what he knows. Some claim he has learned of a coming protector. Others suggest he simply feels destiny drawing near. Historians continue to debate which traditions came first. The mystery remains unresolved. But perhaps that uncertainty itself belongs to the story. After all, even the Greeks often disagreed about the intentions of their gods. Zeus stands among drifting clouds. Below him stretches the mortal world. Cities gleam beneath moonlight. Sacred fires burn in isolated temples. Ships drift across dark seas. And somewhere among countless lives, one future shines brighter than the rest. A future not yet revealed, yet already approaching. Meanwhile, strange signs begin appearing around Thebes. Nothing dramatic, nothing impossible, only small disturbances, subtle hints, the sort of events people notice only afterward. A shepherd reports seeing an eagle circle above the city, unusually long. A temple priest discovers an offering untouched by scavenging birds. A sacred flame burns with uncommon steadiness despite strong winds. Such things mattered deeply in ancient Greece. The Greeks believed the gods communicated through symbols: birds, dreams, storms, unusual occurrences. Every sign invited interpretation. Yet, interpretation remained difficult. The meaning was rarely obvious. And that uncertainty created both fascination and fear. You pass through a marketplace, now empty of merchants. The scent of olives and wine still lingers in the cool air. Stone columns cast long shadows across deserted streets. Above, countless stars shine with extraordinary clarity. The ancient Greeks studied those stars carefully. They saw stories among them: heroes, monsters, gods, entire myths suspended across the heavens. Looking upward, they found reminders that mortal life existed within a larger cosmic design. And tonight, those stars seem especially bright, as though they too anticipate something approaching. Within her household, Alcmene sleeps, yet her rest is not entirely peaceful. A dream begins, or perhaps several dreams merge together through generations of storytelling. The surviving traditions are unclear. Some accounts mention celestial light. Others describe an approaching storm. Another interpretation suggests a vision of a lion standing silently before her. Whatever the original version may have been, the dream carries a feeling rather than a message. Expectation, possibility, change. She awakens before dawn. The room remains dark. Only faint moonlight enters through narrow openings in the walls. The dream fades quickly, yet its emotion lingers. Many ancient listeners would have recognized this moment. Not every prophetic dream arrives with obvious meaning. Sometimes uncertainty itself becomes the omen. And Alcmene cannot explain what she feels, only that something seems different. Outside, the first birds begin calling from cypress trees. A cool breeze enters the city. The world appears unchanged. Yet beneath appearances, destiny continues advancing. Far away, Olympus remains awake. Zeus walks alone through quiet halls of marble and gold. Torchlight dances across polished floors. The scent of ambrosia drifts through empty chambers. Even immortals experience moments of reflection. And tonight, Zeus reflects upon the future, not with certainty, not with complete understanding. Because prophecy rarely offers complete answers. It offers fragments, possibilities, warnings. The same mysterious force that once shaped the Titan War now stirs again. Somewhere ahead lies a child, a hero, perhaps a savior, perhaps something more complicated. The Greeks understood that greatness often carried hidden costs. Every gift demanded payment. Every victory left scars. Every legend began with choices whose consequences remained invisible. The same truth applies here. The path toward Heracles has begun. Yet no one fully understands where it leads. Not Alcmene, not Amphitryon, perhaps not even Zeus himself. The stars slowly fade as dawn approaches. Soft, golden light touches distant mountains. Temple bells sound across Thebes. Farmers prepare for another ordinary day. And therein lies the beauty of mythology. The greatest stories often begin quietly. Before monsters, before labors, before glory. There is only a family, a city waking beneath the morning sky, and a destiny moving closer with every passing sunrise. Dawn comes softly to Thebes. The city wakes beneath pale gold light, and the first smoke rises from cooking fires. Bakers open their clay ovens. Women draw water from stone fountains. Hooves strike the streets as messengers pass through narrow gates. Yet beyond the ordinary sounds of morning, a hidden pattern continues forming. You feel it in the air, a waiting, a stillness. Alcmene moves through her household with calm dignity, but the dream has not fully left her. It clings to the edge of memory like mist along a riverbank. She remembers brightness, though no lamp had burned. She remembers thunder, though the night had been clear. And somewhere in that fading vision, she remembers a presence, not a face, not a voice, only the feeling that something vast had looked upon her. Ancient Greeks took dreams seriously. They believed dreams could come from the gods, from the dead, or from hidden chambers of the soul. A dream might be warning, blessing, deception, or prophecy. Its meaning depended on who received it when it came and what followed afterward. But Alcmene has no interpreter beside her. No priest explains the sign. No oracle speaks. So she keeps the dream within herself. That is often how destiny begins. Quietly, privately, almost like a secret. Meanwhile, Amphitryon prepares for war. He must leave Thebes to settle old conflicts and restore honor among hostile neighbors. Bronze weapons are polished in the courtyard. Leather straps are tightened. Horses stamp impatiently against packed earth. The scent of oil, sweat, and sharpened metal fills the morning. Alcmene watches him prepare. There is affection between them, also worry. The Greeks knew that war could turn ordinary farewells into final ones. A husband leaving beneath bright skies might return beneath a funeral cloak. A promise spoken at the doorway might become a memory before sunset. Amphitryon promises he will return. Alcmene accepts the promise. Yet above the house, an eagle passes across the sun. For a moment, its shadow touches the threshold. A servant notices and falls silent. Is it an omen? No one knows. Some later storytellers would have made much of it. Others might have ignored it. But in the world you are entering, signs rarely appear without purpose. Amphitryon departs. His companions follow him through the gates of Thebes and into the dusty road beyond. Their spears catch the sunlight. Their cloaks move in the wind. Slowly, the sound of their marching fades into the countryside. Alcmene remains behind. Days pass. Then nights. The moon grows brighter. The house becomes quieter. In the evenings, she stands beneath the open sky and looks toward the road. She listens to distant dogs, the call of night birds, and the wind moving through olive branches. She does not know Zeus is watching. High above Olympus shines beyond mortal sight. Zeus stands at the edge of the clouds, gazing downward with an intensity that unsettles even the air around him. Desire moves within him, but desire alone does not explain the moment. Something larger is unfolding. The prophecy still lingers. A child of Zeus, a strength beyond mortal measure, a life that may defend the divine order. Yet another question remains. Does Zeus choose Alcmene because destiny requires her? Or does destiny reshape itself around Zeus's desire? Ancient traditions never fully agree. That uncertainty gives the myth its strange power. On the night Amphitryon returns victorious, another figure arrives first. The sky is deep blue. The stars are sharp and cold. A hush settles over Thebes, as if the whole city has drawn one long breath. Then Zeus descends, not as thunder, not as lightning, not as the blazing king of heaven. He comes in the form of Amphitryon. To ancient audiences, divine disguise carried both wonder and unease. The gods could cross boundaries no mortal could protect. A face, a voice, a familiar gesture could become uncertain when divinity entered human life. Alcmene sees what appears to be her husband. He tells her of victory. He speaks with Amphitryon's voice. He carries himself with Amphitryon's strength. Yet perhaps something feels different. A brightness in the eyes, a stillness around the room, a pressure in the air like the silence before a storm. Some traditions say Zeus lengthened the night itself. He commanded the sun not to rise. He stretched darkness over the world so that his time with Alcmene might last beyond mortal measure. Imagine that night. The moon suspended above the roofs, the stars refusing to fade, the hearth fire burning low, yet never dying. Across Greece, shepherds may have wondered why dawn delayed. Sailors may have watched the eastern horizon and felt unease. Priests may have whispered prayers before cold altars. Was it love? Was it deception? Was it destiny? The myth leaves you with questions, and perhaps ancient listeners felt them too. By morning, the world resumes its rhythm. The real Amphitryon returns to Thebes. He arrives with victory behind him, tired from battle and road dust. His men carry trophies. His horses breathe steam into the cool dawn air. The household welcomes him, but confusion soon enters. Alcmene speaks as though he has already returned. Amphitryon listens troubled. At first, he cannot understand. Then, doubt spreads through him. Not anger alone, fear. For in myth, when impossible things happen inside the home, the gods may be near. Amphitryon seeks answers. Some versions say he consults the seer, Tiresias, the blind prophet of Thebes. Tiresias stands between worlds, seeing what others cannot. Through him, the hidden truth begins to emerge. Zeus has visited. A divine child has been conceived. And another child fully mortal may also come from Amphitryon. 2 sons, 2 destinies, one womb carrying both human and divine possibility. This too mattered to Greek imagination. Heracles would belong to 2 worlds from the beginning. Born into a mortal house yet marked by Olympus. Loved by some, hunted by others. Blessed with strength, burdened by divine attention. As the news settles over the household, Alcmene must carry more than pregnancy. She carries mystery. She carries fear. She carries a future no one can explain. Outside Thebes continues living. Merchants shout in the marketplace. Children chase one another near temple steps. Sacrificial smoke rises into the morning light. But inside one quiet house, destiny has entered. And somewhere beyond the clouds, Hera begins to hear the whisper of betrayal. The seasons move quietly across Greece. Warm winds drift from the sea. Fig trees grow heavy with fruit. Fields beyond Thebes shimmer beneath golden sunlight. Life follows its familiar rhythms, and yet beneath those rhythms, something unseen continues to grow. Within Alcmene, a child develops, perhaps 2 children, one mortal, one carrying the blood of Zeus. The distinction remains hidden from ordinary eyes, but not from Olympus. High above the earth, among halls of marble and cloud, a whisper begins traveling through the courts of the gods. The whisper is small at first, barely noticeable. A glance exchanged between immortals, a pause in conversation, a question left unanswered. Then the truth slowly emerges. Zeus has once again reached into the mortal world, and Hera learns of it. You can almost feel the change moving through Olympus. The air grows still. Golden fires burn quietly in their braziers. The music that usually fills the halls seems distant. Even the lesser gods become cautious. Because they know Hera. They know her wisdom. They know her dignity. And they know her anger. Ancient audiences often misunderstood Hera when hearing only fragments of her stories. She appears again and again as the enemy of Zeus's mortal children. Yet beneath those tales lies something deeper. She is goddess of marriage, goddess of lawful unions, protector of sacred vows. Every betrayal wounds the very thing she represents. The Greeks understood this contradiction well. Hera could be magnificent and terrifying at once, patient beyond measure, yet capable of vengeance that lasted generations. Tonight, you walk through the halls of Olympus beside her. Torchlight dances across polished stone. Columns disappear into drifting clouds above. Immortal servants move silently through vast chambers. Far below, thunderheads gather over distant mountains. Hera stands near an open terrace. The world stretches beneath her feet. Cities appear as tiny clusters of light. Rivers gleam like silver threads. The sea reflects moonlight all the way to the horizon. Yet she is not admiring the view. She is listening. The gods hear many things. Prayers, promises, curses, songs. And now Hera hears a name, Alcmene. The name repeats itself among whispers, among rumors, among half-spoken conversations. At first, she remains silent. But silence does not mean ignorance. One ancient tradition suggests Hera already understands the truth before anyone speaks it aloud. Another interpretation survives in later writings where messengers reveal the news directly. Historians continue to debate which version may be older. Yet all versions lead toward the same moment, the realization. Zeus has fathered another child. A child already surrounded by prophecy. A child destined for greatness. The moon rises higher. Cloud shadows drift across the world below. And Hera's thoughts darken like a distant storm. Not because she fears the child. Not yet. But because prophecy has entered the matter. Prophecy changes everything. The gods themselves have learned this lesson repeatedly. Zeus rose to power because of prophecy. Cronus fell because of prophecy. Entire ages of the cosmos have shifted because someone tried to escape a foretold future. And now, another prediction begins circulating through Olympus. A descendant of Perseus is coming. A mighty ruler. A figure destined to achieve extraordinary things. Some versions describe the prophecy differently. The details vary. Yet one idea appears again and again. The child will stand above all other heroes, perhaps above all other mortals. The meaning remains uncertain, and uncertainty breeds fear, even among immortals. You leave Olympus for a moment and descend once more into the mortal world. Night covers Thebes. Oil lamps glow behind shuttered windows. The scent of olive oil and warm bread lingers in narrow streets. Dogs bark in distant courtyards. The city sleeps peacefully. Alcmene rests within her home. Her pregnancy advances steadily, yet strange events continue surrounding her. One evening, she dreams of a lion walking beside her. Its mane shines like sunlight. Its eyes reflect fire. It neither threatens nor speaks. Instead, it simply watches, then disappears into darkness. She awakens before dawn. The dream feels important. But why? No answer comes. The Greeks often loved such mysteries. Dreams rarely explain themselves. Meaning revealed itself only later, sometimes years later. Meanwhile, priests at nearby sanctuaries begin noticing unusual signs. At one shrine, sacred birds gather in unexpected numbers. At another, a sacrificial flame burns with unusual brightness. A traveling seer reports hearing thunder beneath a cloudless sky. Coincidence? Perhaps. Divine communication? Possibly. No one can say with certainty. And that uncertainty becomes part of the atmosphere surrounding the unborn child. The world seems to be waiting, watching, listening. Far above, Hera does the same. She walks through a garden on Olympus, where immortal flowers bloom year-round. Their fragrance drifts through cool night air. Streams of crystal water flow between marble pathways, yet beauty offers little comfort. Because Hera has reached a decision. If a child is coming, if prophecy surrounds him, then she will not ignore it. A warning begins forming within her heart. Not yet a curse, not yet vengeance, simply a warning. The child may carry Zeus's blood, but that blood will not protect him. Ancient listeners would have understood the significance immediately. In Greek mythology, divine ancestry rarely guarantees happiness. Often it invites suffering. The closer a person stands to the gods, the greater the dangers surrounding them. And no future hero will stand closer to divine conflict than Heracles. Though he remains unborn, forces already gather around his life. Zeus hopes for greatness. Hera watches with suspicion. Prophecy waits patiently. Fate moves silently. The child has not yet taken his first breath. Yet enemies are already forming. You return once more to the sleeping city of Thebes. A breeze moves through cypress branches. The stars shine brilliantly overhead. Alcmene sleeps peacefully for now. She does not hear the conversations of Olympus. She does not know that gods are already debating her child's future. She knows only that life grows within her, and that strange dreams continue visiting the edges of night. The lion returns once more before dawn, standing at the edge of a shadowed forest, watching, waiting, then vanishing again. What does it mean? Ancient storytellers offered different answers. Perhaps it foretells strength, perhaps danger, perhaps both. For in Greek myth, the greatest gifts often arrive wearing the same face as future suffering. And as another moon passes across the sky, Hera's warning settles over the unborn child like a distant storm, still hidden beyond the horizon. The thunder has not yet arrived, but it is coming. The months pass slowly. Summer fades across Greece, and the first hints of autumn touch the hills beyond Thebes. The air grows cooler after sunset. Farmers gather olives beneath silver-leaved trees. Ships return to harbor before winter storms begin their long journey across the sea. Within Alcmene's house, anticipation quietly deepens. The child is nearly ready to enter the world. Servants prepare linens. Family members offer prayers. Oil lamps burn late into the night. Everything appears peaceful, yet peace is often fragile in the world of myth. Far above the earth, Olympus watches, and Hera has not forgotten. You walk once more through the halls of the immortals. The great palace glows beneath eternal light. Golden cups rest upon marble tables. Sacred fires burn without consuming their fuel. The air carries the fragrance of ambrosia and flowering trees unknown to mortals. Here, time moves differently. Yet, even the gods feel the approach of important moments. And this moment carries enormous significance. Ancient traditions preserve a prophecy that now troubles Hera deeply. Zeus himself may have spoken it. At a gathering of gods, he proudly declared that a descendant of Perseus would soon be born. This child, he announced, would rule over those around him. The words echoed through Olympus, and once spoken, they could not be recalled. Some storytellers present the scene differently. Another interpretation suggests the prophecy already existed before Zeus repeated it. Historians continue to debate the oldest version. But regardless of the details, Hera sees an opportunity. Prophecies often depend upon precise wording. The gods know this. A single phrase can change destiny. A single misunderstanding can alter generations. And Hera is clever, far cleverer than many later retellings allow. She does not challenge Zeus openly. She does not demand that fate change. Instead, she listens carefully, then begins making plans. The moon hangs above Olympus. Clouds drift beneath marble terraces. Hera stands alone beside a reflecting pool. The water remains perfectly still. Its surface mirrors stars that seem impossibly distant. Perhaps she remembers other prophecies, other warnings, other moments when destiny shifted unexpectedly. Whatever her thoughts, one decision becomes clear. If the prophecy cannot be broken, perhaps it can be redirected. The child within Alcmene is not the only descendant of Perseus alive. Elsewhere, another woman is also pregnant. Her name is Nisipe. She carries a child named Eurystheus, a lesser figure now, almost forgotten by history. Yet fate is about to place him at the center of events. You descend again into the mortal world. Thebes sleeps beneath cold starlight. Within her chamber, Alcmene feels the first signs that birth approaches. A fire burns softly nearby. The scent of olive oil fills the room. Outside, wind moves through cypress trees. Everything seems ready. Yet, something strange happens. The hours pass. Then more hours. The child does not come. Midwives exchange uncertain glances. Prayers are offered. Sacred charms are placed near the bed. Still nothing changes. Ancient Greeks often imagined divine involvement during childbirth. Birth was dangerous, unpredictable, a threshold between life and death. Because of this, many gods and goddesses became associated with the process. One of them was Eileithyia, goddess of childbirth. And according to many traditions, Hera now turns to her. The command is simple. Delay the birth. Prevent the child from entering the world. Keep destiny waiting. The image survives in several ancient sources. Outside Alcmene's chamber sits Eileithyia, crossing her legs and clasping her hands together in a symbolic gesture that halts labor itself. As long as she remains in that position, birth cannot proceed. Inside, Alcmene suffers, not dramatic suffering, not violent scenes. Instead, a slow and exhausting struggle. Time stretches. The hours become strangely heavy. The household grows anxious. No one fully understands what is happening, but everyone senses that something is wrong. Meanwhile, far away, another birth advances. Eurystheus enters the world first, a small child, ordinary in appearance, yet extraordinary in consequence. Because Hera has succeeded, the descendant of Perseus who arrives first is not Heracles. It is Eurystheus, and according to the prophecy's wording, the firstborn descendant gains the promised authority. The moment is subtle, yet enormously important. One of the great themes of Greek mythology appears here once again. Fate cannot always be prevented, but its path can be altered. You can almost imagine Zeus realizing what has happened. The king of the gods understands too late. His own words have become a trap. Ancient audiences often appreciated such irony. Power does not guarantee control. Even Zeus sometimes suffers consequences from pride. Thunder rolls somewhere beyond Olympus. Clouds gather along distant horizons. The king of heaven is angry, yet anger changes nothing. The prophecy stands. Eurystheus has been born, and the future hero will someday serve him, a king of unmatched strength, forced to obey a weaker ruler. The contradiction seems unfair. Perhaps that is why the story endured. Life itself often appears unfair. Greek mythology rarely pretended otherwise. Back in Thebes, another figure finally notices the cause of the delay. Different traditions tell the story differently. In one famous version, a clever servant named Galanthis recognizes that divine interference is occurring. She understands the problem. She also understands that desperate situations sometimes require clever solutions. Galanthis rushes outside. She announces that the child has already been born. The statement is false, but it shocks Eileithyia. For a moment, the goddess uncrosses her limbs in surprise. The spell breaks. Inside the house, labor resumes. The waiting ends. Birth finally begins. The night grows quiet. Stars wheel slowly overhead. The household gathers around sacred fires. Prayers rise into darkness. And after all the delays, all the divine schemes, all the hidden struggles, the long-awaited child enters the world. Not alone. For Alcmene gives birth to twins. One is Iphicles, son of Amphitryon. The other is Heracles, son of Zeus. The future hero takes his first breath beneath flickering lamplight. No thunder shakes the earth. No mountains crack apart. No heavenly choir appears. Only the small cry of a newborn child. Yet hidden within that cry lies a destiny that will transform myth forever. Outside, dawn begins touching the eastern horizon. Birds stir among olive branches. The city of Thebes slowly wakes. Most people remain unaware that history has changed during the night. But the gods know. Zeus knows. Hera knows. And somewhere beyond understanding, fate continues unfolding exactly as it must. The child has arrived. The prophecy has bent. The warning remains. And already unseen eyes are watching the cradle. Morning light spreads gently across Thebes. Golden sunlight touches rooftops and temple columns. Market stalls open along busy streets. Farmers arrive with baskets of figs, olives, and grapes. The city greets another ordinary day. Yet within one quiet household, nothing feels ordinary anymore. The long-awaited child has been born. Heracles rests beside his twin brother Iphicles. Two infants, two futures, one mortal, one touched by Olympus. The distinction remains invisible. To anyone entering the room, they appear simply as newborn children, wrapped in soft cloth and sleeping beneath warm lamplight. And perhaps that is part of the mystery. The Greeks often imagined divinity hidden inside ordinary appearances. Gods walked among shepherds. Prophecies emerged from simple words. Heroes began life as vulnerable children. The greatest strength in the world might first appear as helplessness. Outside the chamber, family members celebrate. Prayers are offered. Wine is poured. Small sacrifices are made to household gods. The scent of burning incense drifts through the air. Amphitryon moves quietly through the house, relieved that both mother and children have survived. Alcmene rests beside her sons, exhausted, peaceful, unaware that Olympus has already turned its attention toward the cradle. Far above the earth, Zeus watches with satisfaction. The child lives. The prophecy continues. Though Hera delayed the birth and redirected part of fate through Eurystheus, she has not prevented the hero's arrival. Heracles now breathes beneath the same sky as gods and mortals, and that fact alone changes the future. Yet, Zeus's satisfaction does not erase Hera's anger. The Queen of Olympus has lost one contest. She does not intend to lose another. You walk once more through the halls of the immortals. The air feels colder than before. Not physically cold, emotionally cold. The sort of chill that enters a room when resentment remains unresolved. Hera stands near a great window overlooking the world. Clouds drift below. Lightning flickers within distant storms. Her expression reveals little. Yet beneath her calm exterior, determination remains. The child survives. Very well. Then another path must be found. Ancient audiences knew what often followed such moments. Divine conflict rarely ends quickly. Instead, it unfolds over years, sometimes over generations. And so, Hera's attention settles upon the newborn hero. Not because he has wronged her. He has done nothing. He is an infant. That tragic reality gives the myth much of its emotional weight. Heracles inherits consequences before he can even speak. Perhaps ancient listeners recognize something familiar in that idea. Human beings often carry burdens created by others. Children inherit old rivalries. Families pass down unfinished sorrows. The myth transforms that experience into cosmic scale. Meanwhile, the infant Heracles sleeps peacefully. Days pass. The household settles into routine. Morning feedings, quiet afternoons, soft conversations around evening fires. Outside, autumn deepens across Greece. Cool breezes move through olive groves. The sea grows darker beneath gathering clouds. Everything appears calm. Yet signs begin appearing once more. A dog refuses to enter the nursery. A sacred flame sputters unexpectedly during prayer. One night, an owl calls repeatedly from the roof. Small things, perhaps meaningless, perhaps warnings. The Greeks rarely separated those possibilities completely. A sign became meaningful through what followed. And what follows now is remembered for centuries. The moon is high above Thebes. Most of the city sleeps. Oil lamps burn low. The streets remain silent, except for distant footsteps from watchmen patrolling the walls. Inside the house, darkness fills the nursery. The twins rest in their cradle. A cool breeze enters through a narrow opening. The shadows seem unusually deep. Then movement appears, slow, silent, terrifying. Two enormous serpents slide through the darkness. Their scales reflect pale moonlight. Their bodies move with unsettling grace across the stone floor. No one hears them arrive. No servant raises an alarm. No dog barks. Some ancient traditions claim Hera sent them directly. Others leave the matter less certain. Perhaps they emerged from divine command. Perhaps they represented a darker force connected to fate itself. Another interpretation suggests the story developed symbolically over time. Historians continue debating such questions. Yet, within the myth, the danger is real. The serpents approach the cradle. The room remains silent. Moonlight touches the infants' faces. Iphicles sleeps peacefully. Heracles sleeps peacefully. Neither understands the threat moving toward them. The snakes rise. Their bodies coil around the cradle. Their tongues flicker through the darkness. And then something extraordinary happens. Iphicles awakens first. Like any child, he cries out in fear. His voice echoes through the room. The household begins stirring. Footsteps sound in distant corridors. But before help can arrive, Heracles awakens as well. The future hero is still an infant, barely more than a baby. Yet the blood of Zeus flows through him. Ancient storytellers never forgot this moment, because here for the first time, the prophecy reveals itself, not through words, not through visions. Through action, the child reaches outward. Small hands close around the serpents. The creatures struggle. Their bodies twist and coil. Yet Heracles does not release them. His grip tightens. The room fills with chaos. Servants rush toward the nursery. Alcmene follows. Amphitryon follows. Torches flare against stone walls. Voices rise in alarm. Then everyone stops. The sight before them seems impossible. The serpents hang lifeless from the infant's hands. The danger has ended. The child sits quietly within the cradle, as though nothing remarkable has occurred. Imagine the silence that follows. Torchlight flickers. Smoke drifts toward the ceiling. No one speaks immediately. Because what words could explain such a thing? The Greeks loved moments like this. The sudden revelation. The glimpse of hidden destiny. A hero's nature becoming visible long before adulthood. Yet alongside wonder comes uncertainty. What exactly does this strength mean? Is it blessing? Protection? Danger? The question remains unanswered, even now. Ancient audiences knew that extraordinary power often carried extraordinary consequences, and Heracles has only begun his journey. The serpents disappear from the story, but their meaning remains. They become the first challenge sent against him, the first proof of his strength, the first sign that ordinary life will never be possible. Later generations create statues and paintings of the scene. Poets celebrate it. Temple traditions preserve it. The image survives across centuries. A child defeating monsters before he can walk. A cradle becoming a battlefield. A prophecy taking shape. Outside dawn slowly approaches. The stars begin fading. The household remains awake long after the danger passes. Alcmene watches her son differently now, not with fear, but with wonder. Amphitryon does the same. And somewhere high above the clouds, Hera understands something important. The child will not be easy to destroy. The warning she sensed before his birth has become reality. A new force has entered the world. Still young, still vulnerable, yet already powerful enough to alter the plans of gods. The cradle grows quiet again. The moon sinks toward the horizon, and the first chapter of Heracles' legend comes to an end. But another mystery remains. If an infant can overcome serpents sent by heaven itself, what kind of man will he someday become? Years pass across the hills and valleys of Greece. The infant in the cradle becomes a child. The child becomes a youth. Seasons wheel endlessly above Thebes, carrying winter rains, spring blossoms, summer heat, and autumn harvests. And with every passing year, Heracles grows stronger. Not gradually, not normally, remarkably. The signs first appear in ordinary moments. A wooden stool proves too heavy for most children, yet Heracles lifts it easily. A stubborn goat refuses to move, yet the boy guides it without effort. Wrestling games that delight other children end almost immediately when he joins them. At first, such things seem amusing, then surprising, then unsettling, because his strength continues growing. The memory of the serpents never completely fades from the household. Visitors still whisper about the story. Some believe it fully. Others suspect exaggeration. The Greeks loved such debates. Historians continue to note how myths often grow through retelling. Yet, whether every detail happened exactly as described matters less than what the story meant. The child was different. Everyone understood that. And Heracles himself begins understanding it as well. You walk now through the countryside beyond Thebes. Morning mist hangs over fields. Dew sparkles on grasses. Shepherds guide sheep along narrow paths winding through rocky hills. Young Heracles often wanders these landscapes. He enjoys movement, space, freedom. The open world calls to him more strongly than walls ever will. Already something restless lives within him. Not cruelty, not arrogance, restlessness. The feeling that he was meant for something larger, though he cannot yet explain what that larger thing might be. Many ancient heroes share this quality. They belong nowhere completely. Even among friends and family, a distance remains. Part of them is already walking toward a future no one else can see. Meanwhile, Amphitryon does his best to guide the boy. He understands that strength alone is not enough. A man must learn discipline, honor, self-control. Without those virtues, power becomes dangerous. The Greeks valued balance deeply. A strong warrior who lacked wisdom threatened society as much as any monster. And so Heracles receives an education. Teachers arrive. Lessons begin. The boy learns reading, music, poetry, athletics, and religion. He studies the stories of gods and heroes. He learns how sacrifices are offered, how rituals are performed, how noble citizens should behave. For a time, everything proceeds well. Yet beneath the surface, tension grows. Because Heracles learns quickly when lessons involve action. But patience proves more difficult. Stillness proves more difficult. Restraint proves most difficult of all. One teacher in particular enters the story. His name is Linus. Ancient traditions remember him as a master of music. The Greeks regarded music as far more than entertainment. Proper music shaped character. Harmony and sound reflected harmony within the soul. To teach music was to teach balance. And balance is exactly what Heracles needs. You can almost see the scene. Sunlight enters a courtyard. Young students sit with instruments across their knees. Linus demonstrates rhythms and melodies. His voice remains calm, patient, measured. Most students follow easily. Heracles struggles, not because he lacks intelligence. His mind works well, rather because something inside him resists confinement. The music demands precision. His nature demands movement. The conflict grows, day after day, lesson after lesson, until finally disaster arrives. Ancient storytellers describe the event differently. Some soften it, others make it harsher. Yet the central idea remains. An argument occurs, anger rises, and Heracles loses control. In a sudden burst of temper, he strikes Linus. The blow proves fatal. Silence follows. The kind of silence that changes lives. The Greeks never presented their heroes as flawless. In fact, many of their greatest heroes possessed dangerous weaknesses. Achilles has pride. Odysseus has cunning that sometimes becomes deception. And Heracles carries anger, not ordinary anger. A forceful, destructive temper that can erupt before reason intervenes. This flaw will shape much of his future, even now while still young. The death of Linus shocks everyone. Teachers, family, neighbors. Thebes itself seems quieter afterward. Heracles does not fully understand what he has done. He never intended such an outcome. Yet intentions cannot undo consequences. That lesson settles heavily upon him. Perhaps for the first time, he begins realizing that his strength creates danger as well as protection. The discovery troubles him, as it should. Outside the city, autumn winds sweep across hillsides. Leaves drift through sacred groves. Clouds move low across distant mountains. And Heracles finds himself spending more time away from crowded places. The countryside offers refuge. There among shepherds and forests, he can move freely. There, his strength feels useful rather than threatening. Many traditions say Amphitryon sends him to tend cattle in the hills. Whether punishment or protection, the result remains the same. Heracles enters the wilderness, and the wilderness begins shaping him. The mountains around Thebes possess a rugged beauty. Pine forests cling to steep slopes. Streams rush over stone. Wild animals move through shadowed valleys. At night, stars appear astonishingly bright. Far from city lights, the heavens feel close enough to touch. You walk beside the young hero through those landscapes. The scent of pine resin fills the air. Cold water runs over smooth rocks. Wind moves through high branches with a sound almost like distant voices. Here, Heracles finds something important. Solitude. The Greeks often connected heroes with wilderness. Civilization teaches laws. The wild teaches endurance. Both are necessary. And so while tending cattle and exploring lonely ridges, Heracles slowly matures. Not perfectly, not completely, but gradually. One evening, as twilight settles across the mountains, an old shepherd shares a story beside a fire. The flames crackle softly. Smoke rises toward the stars. The shepherd speaks of prophecies, of great destinies, of heroes who carry both blessings and curses. Heracles listens quietly. Then the old man pauses. A strange expression crosses his face. Perhaps it is only imagination, or perhaps something more. The strongest trees face the hardest storms, he says. Then he falls silent. A simple statement, yet it lingers. Was it wisdom, a warning, an omen? Even ancient storytellers leave the question unanswered. The fire burns lower. Night deepens. Above the stars wheel across the heavens, and somewhere beyond those stars, the gods continue watching. Zeus sees a son growing toward greatness. Hera sees a threat growing toward manhood. Fate sees a path unfolding exactly as intended. Heracles remains unaware of the full design. He knows only that strength fills his limbs, restlessness fills his heart, and the world beyond the mountains seems to be calling his name. Soon that call will lead him toward his first great victory, and toward the lion that waits in the wilderness. Winter passes and spring returns to Greece. Fresh grass spreads across the hills. Wildflowers bloom among rocky slopes. Streams swollen by winter rains race down from the mountains toward fertile valleys below. The world feels renewed. Yet for Heracles, renewal brings movement. The restless energy that followed him through childhood has only grown stronger. He is no longer a boy struggling with lessons in a courtyard. He has become a young man, broad-shouldered and powerful, carrying a strength that few can fully comprehend. Still, the warning spoken beside the shepherd's fire remains somewhere in memory. The strongest trees face the hardest storms. At the time, the words seemed simple. Now they feel heavier, as though they belong to a future not yet revealed. You walk beside Heracles through the countryside west of Thebes. The air smells of pine needles and damp earth. Birds circle above distant cliffs. Shepherds call to their flocks from green hillsides. For a while, everything appears peaceful. Then troubling reports begin to spread. Farmers arrive in villages carrying stories. Shepherds speak in anxious voices. Travelers repeat the same frightening rumor. A lion has appeared in the region of Mount Cithaeron. Not an ordinary lion, something larger, more dangerous, more relentless. Animals vanish from grazing fields. Sheep disappear during the night. Herds scatter in panic. Some claim to have seen the beast moving through mist at dawn. Others insist its roar echoes for miles through mountain valleys. As often happens in mythology, certainty proves difficult. The stories vary. The details change. Yet fear continues growing. Ancient Greece contained very real dangers. Wild animals still roamed remote regions. Mountain travel could be hazardous. The boundary between civilization and wilderness remained fragile. Because of this, monsters in Greek myth often symbolized genuine fears. They represented the chaos waiting beyond settled land, the uncertainty lurking just outside torchlight. The Lion of Cithaeron belongs to that tradition, and sooner or later, Heracles hears the stories. The reports fascinate him, not because he seeks danger recklessly, at least not entirely. Rather, something inside him responds whenever challenges appear, as though destiny itself recognizes opportunity. Some scholars believe such episodes preserve memories of local hunting traditions. Others argue they developed as symbolic stories celebrating heroic courage. Both interpretations may contain truth. Myths often weave history and imagination together. What matters now is the journey itself. One morning, beneath a sky washed clear by recent rain, Heracles leaves for the mountains. The road climbs steadily upward. Villages become scarce. Forests grow thicker. The scent of pine fills the air. Below, the world stretches toward distant horizons. Ahead waits uncertainty. The mountain of Cithaeron rises like a great stone barrier between regions. Clouds gather around its highest ridges. Eagles drift upon invisible currents of air. The landscape feels ancient, untamed, almost sacred. Many Greek mountains carried religious significance. They stood between earth and sky, between human life and divine presence. As Heracles climbs higher, he enters a realm where ordinary rules seem weaker. Daylight filters through tall trees. Wind whispers among branches. Occasionally he discovers tracks, large tracks, fresh tracks. The lion is near, yet it remains unseen. That uncertainty creates tension. The Greeks understood that fear often grows strongest before danger appears. The unknown allows imagination to work, and imagination can be more frightening than reality. Night eventually arrives. Heracles builds a small fire beneath an overhanging cliff. The flames dance against stone. Above him, countless stars emerge. The mountain becomes silent, except for distant animal sounds carried by the wind. Then something strange happens. As the fire burns lower, sleep slowly approaches, and with sleep comes a dream, or perhaps a vision. The distinction remains unclear. Ancient traditions often blurred the boundary. In the dream, Heracles stands at a crossroads. Not the famous crossroads still waiting in his future, but another path divided between two directions. One road leads toward comfort. The other disappears into darkness and storm. A lion stands beside the darker road, watching him, waiting. Then the vision ends. Heracles awakens before dawn. The fire has nearly died. Cold air surrounds him. The stars are fading. Was the dream meaningful? A divine sign? Merely exhaustion? No answer comes. Yet the image remains vivid. The lion waiting beside the difficult path. Ancient listeners would have recognized the symbolism immediately. Greatness rarely follows easy roads. Morning arrives. The hunt continues. For days, Heracles searches valleys, forests, and rocky ravines. He follows tracks through mud. He studies broken branches and disturbed grass. The mountain tests him. Rain falls unexpectedly. Cold winds sweep across exposed ridges. Food becomes scarce. Yet he persists. Patience begins shaping strength into something more useful. That lesson matters, because true heroism requires more than power. It requires endurance. Finally, near sunset, several days later, the encounter comes. The light turns golden. Long shadows stretch across a remote clearing. The forest grows quiet, unnaturally quiet. Even birds fall silent. Then, movement appears among the trees. The lion emerges, massive, muscular. Its mane glows like bronze beneath the setting sun. Its eyes fix upon Heracles with unsettling calm. For a moment, neither moves, hunter and hunted. Though which is which remains uncertain. The lion growls softly. The sound vibrates through the clearing. The earth itself seems to feel it. Ancient storytellers describe the battle differently. Some make it brief. Others elaborate. Yet all agree that it reveals something important. Heracles does not retreat. The struggle that follows is fierce. Dust rises. Branches break. The lion attacks with terrifying force. Yet Heracles meets that force directly. Strength against strength. Will against will. At last, the beast falls. Silence returns to the mountain. The wind moves through pine branches once more. The danger has ended. But something inside Heracles has changed. As twilight settles over Cithaeron, he stands beside the fallen lion. The victory feels different from childhood feats, different from training, different from games. This challenge carried real risk, real consequence. For perhaps the first time, he understands what it means to protect others. The lion threatened villages. Now it threatens no one. The deed matters, and that realization settles deeply within him. You stand with him as darkness gathers across the mountains. Below, distant villages begin lighting evening fires. Smoke rises gently into the cooling air. Stars appear overhead. The world feels larger than before. So does his place within it. Yet another mystery remains. Why did the dream come before the hunt? Who sent it? Zeus? Fate? Some hidden power older than both? Ancient traditions never fully answer. Perhaps they were never meant to. The Greeks often valued mystery as much as explanation. The unknown preserved wonder, and wonder kept stories alive. Far above Olympus watches once more. Zeus sees promise. Hera sees growing danger. The prophecy continues unfolding. The child who crushed serpents has become a young man capable of confronting monsters. But the mountain lion is only the beginning. Much greater trials still wait beyond the horizon. And soon destiny will offer Heracles a choice that will shape every remaining year of his life. The lion of Cithaeron is gone. Its roar no longer echoes through mountain valleys. Shepherds lead their flocks with greater confidence. Villages once troubled by fear return to ordinary life. And throughout the countryside, stories begin spreading. People speak of the young man who faced the beast, the strong son of Amphitryon, the hunter of Cithaeron. The details change with every retelling. Such things always happen. One storyteller claims the lion was enormous. Another insists it moved like a shadow. A third swears divine signs appeared during the battle. Historians continue to observe how oral traditions naturally expand over time. Yet, beneath every variation remains the same truth. Heracles is becoming known, and with recognition comes a new challenge. For fame can shape destiny almost as powerfully as prophecy. You walk now beside him as he leaves the mountains behind. Spring deepens across Greece. Wildflowers color the hillsides. Warm winds carry the scent of pine thyme and distant seawater. Above, white clouds drift across an endless blue sky. The world feels open, full of possibility. Yet Heracles remains thoughtful. The dream before the lion hunt still lingers in memory. The two roads, the waiting beast, the sense that some decision lay hidden ahead. Dreams often work that way in mythology. Their meanings reveal themselves slowly, like stars emerging after sunset. As he travels, he spends long hours alone. The road winds through olive groves, quiet valleys, and sacred places where travelers leave offerings beside weathered altars. In solitude, reflection becomes easier. And reflection is something Heracles increasingly needs. Strength has brought him success, but success has not answered deeper questions. What kind of life should he pursue? What purpose should guide his gifts? How should a man use extraordinary power? The Greeks cared deeply about such questions. They believed character mattered as much as achievement, perhaps more. A hero who conquered monsters but failed to master himself remained incomplete. And so, according to one of the most famous traditions connected to Heracles, a remarkable encounter takes place. Whether it happened literally symbolically or somewhere between the two remains uncertain. Ancient sources differ. Some present it as a vision, others as an allegory later attached to his life. Another interpretation suggests it reflected philosophical teachings that became woven into myth. Yet, regardless of origin, the story endured because it expressed something timeless. One afternoon, while traveling through a quiet landscape, Heracles comes to a crossroads. The sun hangs low above distant hills. Cicadas sing among olive trees. Dust rises softly beneath his sandals. Two roads stretch ahead, one broad and inviting, the other narrower and more difficult. The moment feels strangely familiar, as though he has stood here before, and in a sense he has. The dream on Mount Cithaeron returns vividly to mind. The crossroads from sleep now stands before him in waking life. Then two figures appear. Their arrival feels almost dreamlike. Perhaps they are goddesses, perhaps spirits, perhaps embodiments of ideas given human form. The Greeks often use such imagery to explore moral choices. One woman is beautiful, richly dressed and smiling. Her voice is gentle, her manner inviting. She introduces herself differently depending on the version of the tale. Some call her vice, others call her pleasure. The exact name matters less than what she represents. Ease, comfort, immediate reward, the path without struggle. The second figure appears simpler, more reserved. Yet there is strength in her presence, a quiet dignity. She is often called virtue or excellence. The Greek concept behind her is difficult to translate fully. It means becoming the best version of oneself through effort and discipline. She points toward the harder road, the road climbing toward distant hills, the road disappearing into uncertainty. The first woman speaks. Why pursue hardship? Why embrace suffering? Life could be comfortable, pleasant, filled with enjoyment and praise. The broad road offers all these things. No struggle required, no sacrifice necessary. Her words sound appealing, perhaps because they contain truth. Comfort genuinely attracts people. It always has. The second woman waits until the first finishes. Then she speaks calmly. Her road promises no easy rewards, no immediate pleasure. Instead, it offers labor, challenge, responsibility, loss, yet also meaning, growth, lasting honor. The conversation unfolds beneath warm afternoon light. Wind moves softly through nearby trees. Birds circle high overhead, and Heracles listens. Ancient audiences would have understood that the crossroads represents far more than one moment. It symbolizes countless choices repeated throughout life. Every day offers easier paths and harder ones. Every person eventually decides what kind of character they will build. The story transforms that universal experience into mythic form. You stand beside Heracles as he considers both roads. Neither woman forces him. The choice belongs entirely to him. That detail matters. Prophecy may shape circumstances. The gods may create opportunities. But personal decisions still matter. Greek mythology often emphasizes this balance. Fate provides the stage. Character determines how one acts upon it. At last, Heracles speaks. The answer comes quietly, without drama, without hesitation. He chooses the difficult road, not because suffering itself is desirable, but because meaning often lives beyond comfort. The second woman nods. The first disappears. The vision ends. Or perhaps the dream ends. Or perhaps reality simply resumes. The exact nature of the encounter remains one of mythology's enduring mysteries. Did it happen literally? Was it symbolic? Did later philosophers reshape older traditions? Scholars remain divided, and perhaps that uncertainty adds to the tale's power. The image survives because it feels true, even if its form changes. As evening approaches, Heracles continues his journey. The crossroads lies behind him, yet its lesson remains. The road ahead will not be easy. Indeed, it will become far more difficult than he can imagine. Monsters wait. Madness waits. Loss waits. The warning from the old shepherd returns once more. The strongest trees face the hardest storms. Now the words seem almost prophetic. Because by choosing the harder road, Heracles has also chosen the storms waiting along it. Yet he does not regret the decision. Somewhere deep inside, he understands that his life was never meant to be ordinary. The stars emerge overhead. The first evening fires appear in distant villages. And far away on Olympus, the gods continue watching. Zeus sees his son moving toward greatness. Hera sees him moving toward greater danger. Fate sees him moving exactly where he must go. The choice has been made. The road has been chosen. And ahead beyond the next horizon, another chapter of destiny awaits. A chapter filled not with wilderness and solitude, but with love, honor, and the fragile peace of a home. For even heroes are sometimes allowed moments of happiness. Before the storms return, the road chosen at the crossroads stretches onward beneath changing skies. Spring slowly gives way to summer. Warm sunlight bathes the plains of Boeotia. Wheat fields ripple like golden water beneath steady winds. Across Greece, festivals fill sanctuaries with music, sacrifice, and prayer. And as Heracles continues into adulthood, the world begins offering rewards for his growing reputation. Not every chapter of a hero's life is marked by struggle. Ancient audiences understood this well. Moments of peace matter because they remind you what is at stake when suffering eventually arrives. And for a time, peace truly seems possible. You enter Thebes once more. The city stands proud beneath bright skies. Merchants crowd the marketplace. Bronze workers shape tools and armor beside glowing furnaces. Children race through narrow streets while temple bells echo softly across public squares. Life flourishes here. Yet danger soon approaches from beyond the city walls. A neighboring people known as the Minions demand tribute from Thebes. The burden has become humiliating. Year after year, wealth leaves the city. Year after year, resentment grows. The arrangement feels less like peace and more like submission. The Greeks often explored such situations through myth. Communities desired protectors, champions willing to confront threats that ordinary citizens could not face alone. And now Thebes possesses such a champion. When Heracles learns of the injustice, something within him responds immediately. Not anger, not yet, rather a sense of responsibility. The difficult road chosen at the crossroads continues shaping his character. Strength exists for a purpose, and that purpose includes defending others. The conflict that follows is remembered in several forms. Ancient storytellers preserve different details. Some accounts emphasize military strategy. Others focus upon personal bravery. Historians continue debating how much historical memory may survive beneath the legendary layers. Yet, all traditions agree on the outcome. Heracles leads Thebes to victory. The burden of tribute ends. The city celebrates. And for the first time, his name becomes associated not merely with physical strength, but with leadership. That distinction matters. A strong man can defeat enemies. A leader can inspire communities. The difference is significant. Festivals fill the streets. Sacrifices are offered to grateful gods. Musicians perform beneath decorated porticos. The scent of roasted meat and fresh bread drifts through crowded squares. Torches illuminate evening celebrations long after sunset. Among those observing the festivities stands King Creon of Thebes. He recognizes what many others now recognize. Heracles has become extraordinary, not only powerful, necessary. And so Creon offers a remarkable reward. His daughter, Megara, The marriage joins hero and princess, honor and honor, hope and hope. For Heracles, the offer represents something deeper than status. It represents belonging, the possibility of a settled life, a home. You meet Megara beneath the soft light of an evening courtyard. Ancient sources reveal surprisingly little about her personality compared to the famous men around her. Yet the fragments that survive suggest dignity, intelligence, and grace. Like Alcmene before her, she becomes important not because she seeks glory, but because she provides stability. The Greeks valued such figures. The home mattered, family mattered. Without them, even the greatest victories felt incomplete. The marriage takes place amid celebration. Garlands decorate doorways. Sacred fires burn brightly. Prayers rise toward Olympus. Friends and relatives gather beneath the stars. The night air carries the fragrance of flowers and olive oil. For once, the story feels uncomplicated, almost gentle. And perhaps that gentleness is intentional. Because mythology understands something about human experience. Joy becomes more precious when you know it cannot last forever. The years that follow seem blessed. A house is established. Children are born. The sounds of family life fill rooms once occupied only by silence. Small sandals rest beside doorways. Laughter echoes through the courtyards. Evening meals bring conversation instead of solitude. You walk through this household and feel its warmth. The glow of oil lamps against plaster walls. The smell of bread fresh from clay ovens. The quiet comfort of familiar routines. Heracles appears transformed. Not completely. The restlessness never vanishes entirely. Yet marriage and fatherhood anchor him. The same man who fought lions now carries children upon his shoulders. The same hands that defeated monsters repair simple household items. The image feels almost surprising, yet deeply human. Ancient audiences often appreciated these moments. They reminded listeners that heroes desired many of the same things ordinary people desired. Love, security, purpose, connection. Outside the home, Heracles continues earning respect. His reputation spreads throughout Greece. Travelers carry stories between cities. Sailors repeat them in distant harbors. Poets begin shaping them into song. The child who strangled serpents, the hunter of Cithaeron, the defender of Thebes. Each title adds another layer to the growing legend. Yet beneath the praise, subtle warnings remain. One evening, after a long summer day, Heracles falls asleep beside an open window. Moonlight spills across the room. A cool breeze enters from the courtyard, and a dream arrives. The dream feels strange, familiar, disturbing. He stands once more at the crossroads from years before. The road of hardship stretches ahead. But now, something new appears. Dark mist gathers across the path, not enough to conceal it, only enough to obscure what lies farther ahead. Within the mist, distant voices seem to call, not threatening, not welcoming, simply waiting. When he awakens before dawn, the dream lingers. Unlike the vision of the lion before Cithaeron, this one offers no clear message. Only uncertainty, only warning. What lies hidden within the mist? No answer comes. The Greeks often believed dreams served this purpose, not to explain the future, to prepare the soul for its arrival. Days continue passing. Life resumes its pleasant rhythm. Children grow. Harvests arrive. Festivals return. And yet somewhere beyond sight, forces continue moving. Hera has not forgotten. The prophecy has not vanished. The difficult road chosen long ago still stretches toward distant horizons. Ancient listeners already knew this. Perhaps you know it too. The peace surrounding Heracles feels genuine, yet fragile, like calm water before a storm. Far above Olympus remains silent, too silent. Even Zeus seems watchful now, as though he senses approaching trouble but cannot fully prevent it. Because the gods themselves are not masters of every outcome. That truth has appeared before, when Hera delayed the birth, when Eurystheus gained power through clever timing, and it will appear again. For destiny is moving, slowly, patiently, toward one of the darkest moments in all Greek mythology. The quiet house still stands. Its lamps still burn. Its children still sleep peacefully. But shadows are gathering beyond the walls. And soon Hera's anger will descend at last. Summer lingers over Thebes. Warm evenings settle gently across the city. The scent of olive trees drifts through quiet streets. Families gather beneath shaded courtyards, while musicians play soft melodies in the fading light. Within his household, Heracles enjoys the life he once believed impossible. The restless youth who wandered mountain paths has become a husband and father. Megara moves through the home with calm grace. Children laugh beside the hearth. Oil lamps glow against familiar walls. The quiet house remains filled with warmth. For a little while longer, you walk through those peaceful rooms and notice ordinary details. A clay cup resting on a table. A child's toy abandoned near a doorway. Fresh bread cooling after baking. Simple things. The kinds of things people rarely appreciate fully until they disappear. Ancient Greek audiences understood this truth deeply. Their myths often remind listeners that happiness can be fragile, not because joy lacks value, because it possesses tremendous value, and therefore, loss carries tremendous weight. Far above the mortal world, Olympus remains watchful. Clouds drift around marble terraces. Sacred fires burn without smoke. The immortals continue their endless existence. Yet one goddess still remembers every grievance. Hera has watched the years pass. She has watched Heracles survive. She has watched his reputation grow. The child she once sought to stop has become a celebrated hero. The prophecy continues advancing. And now, according to many traditions, her patience finally ends. You stand beside Hera as she gazes toward the earth below. Lightning flickers within distant clouds. The sea glimmers beneath moonlight. Countless human lives unfold across the world. Yet her attention remains fixed upon one man. Some ancient writers portray Hera as consumed entirely by hatred. Others offer a more complex interpretation. Perhaps she sees Heracles as a living reminder of betrayal. Perhaps she fears what destiny intends for him. Perhaps both are true. The surviving traditions do not fully agree. But all roads lead toward the same tragedy. The calm before the storm. Night settles over Thebes. The city grows quiet. Stars appear above rooftops and temple spires. The household of Heracles prepares for sleep. Children settle into their beds. Megara extinguishes several lamps. The last conversations fade into silence. Everything feels peaceful. Yet subtle signs begin appearing. A dog whimpers unexpectedly. A torch burns unevenly despite still air. A strange pressure seems to settle over the house. The sort of feeling that arrives before a thunderstorm. No one understands its meaning. How could they? The danger approaching is unlike any monster, unlike any lion, unlike any enemy carrying weapons. It comes from within. That possibility frightened the Greeks profoundly, because physical threats can often be confronted. The mind is more mysterious, more difficult, more frightening. As the night deepens, Heracles begins to change. Ancient traditions describe the event in different ways. Some speak of madness sent directly by Hera. Others describe a dark cloud descending upon his thoughts. Still others use imagery of blindness, confusion, or divine possession. The exact mechanism remains uncertain. The effect does not. Reason begins slipping away. Reality grows distorted. Shadows become enemies. Voices become threats. The familiar world transforms into something terrifying. Imagine the horror of such a moment. Not because monsters appear, because they do not. The danger comes from an inability to recognize truth. The Greeks often called this kind of destruction ate, a ruinous blindness sent by divine forces, a state in which judgment collapses. Even powerful individuals become helpless. And now it seizes Heracles. Within the darkness of his own home, the details that follow vary among ancient sources. Some preserve one version, others preserve another. The differences matter less than the emotional truth beneath them. Heracles loses himself. The man who defended cities, the father who carried children upon his shoulders, the husband who found peace after years of struggle. All of it disappears beneath the storm raging inside his mind. The house fills with confusion, fear, shouting, then silence, terrible silence. The kind that follows irreversible events. Outside, the stars continue shining. The wind continues moving through olive branches. The city sleeps unaware. Yet, within one household, disaster has already occurred. Eventually, the madness lifts, slowly, like storm clouds breaking apart after days of rain. Awareness returns. Reality returns. And with it comes understanding. You stand beside Heracles as he looks upon what remains. The moment is almost impossible to imagine. No enemy stands before him. No monster waits to be defeated. Only consequences, only grief, only the unbearable knowledge of what he has done. Ancient storytellers rarely linger on graphic details. Instead, they focus upon emotional devastation, because that devastation is the true heart of the tragedy. Heracles survives every physical challenge placed before him. But this wound is different. Strength offers no protection. Strength offers no solution. The house that once contained laughter now feels empty. The peace he built has shattered. The future he imagined has vanished. For a long time he cannot speak, perhaps because language itself feels inadequate. What words could possibly explain such loss? Dawn eventually arrives. Pale light enters through doorways and windows. Birds begin singing beyond the walls. The world continues. That continuation often feels cruel after tragedy. How can the sun rise normally when everything has changed? Yet it does, as it always does. The Greeks understood this too. Nature remains indifferent to human suffering. The seasons continue. The rivers flow. The stars cross the heavens. Meanwhile, grief settles upon Heracles like a physical weight. The strongest man in Greece now feels powerless. The prophecy that promised greatness has brought unimaginable sorrow. The warning spoken before his birth begins to reveal its meaning. Strength and suffering, glory and pain. The two were never separate. They were always intertwined. You remember the crossroads, the easier road, the harder road. Heracles chose the difficult path freely, yet even he could not have imagined this. No one could. That uncertainty gives the myth much of its enduring power. The future remains hidden until it arrives. And when it arrives, it often differs from every expectation. Days pass. Heracles withdraws from society. Some traditions say he speaks little. Others emphasize his despair. All agree that guilt consumes him, not because he intended evil, but because consequences remain real regardless of intention. Ancient audiences found profound meaning in this idea. Human beings are responsible not only for desires but for actions, and some actions leave wounds that cannot be undone. Eventually, whispers spread throughout Greece. The great hero has fallen. The defender of Thebes has become a figure of sorrow. People speak softly when mentioning his name. Some offer sympathy. Others fear him. Many simply do not know what to think. Far above Olympus remains silent. Even Zeus cannot erase what has happened. Even Zeus cannot restore the lost peace. For perhaps the most painful lesson in Greek mythology is this: the gods can shape events, but they cannot always undo them. At last, after long suffering, a new thought begins forming within Heracles. If he cannot change the past, perhaps he can seek purification. Perhaps he can seek guidance. Perhaps somewhere a god still possesses an answer. The thought grows stronger with each passing day, and eventually it will lead him toward the most famous oracle in Greece, toward Delphi, toward Apollo, toward a command so difficult that it will reshape the rest of his life. The quiet house is gone now. Only memory remains, and memory, like fate, never fully releases its hold. The house stands silent behind him. Days become weeks. Weeks drift slowly into months. The sounds that once filled Heracles' life exist now only as memories. Laughter has faded. Familiar voices have disappeared. Yet memory remains, always memory. It follows him through every waking hour. It waits beside him at night. It lingers in the spaces between thoughts. The Greeks understood grief as something more than sadness. Grief became a companion, a shadow walking beside the living, a presence that changed the shape of ordinary days. And now that shadow follows Heracles wherever he goes. You walk with him beyond the walls of Thebes. The city gradually disappears behind rolling hills and distant olive groves. Dust rises softly beneath his sandals. The spring air feels cool during the early morning, though warmer sunlight soon spreads across the countryside. He travels alone, not because no one would accompany him, because this journey belongs to him alone. Ancient heroes often reached moments like this, moments when companionship could offer comfort but not solutions. Some roads had to be walked in solitude. The road to Delphi is one of them. Far ahead, beyond valleys and mountain ridges, waits the most famous sanctuary in Greece, a place where kings' generals, merchants and ordinary travelers seek answers. A place where gods sometimes speak. Or so people believe. The destination feels appropriate. When human wisdom fails, where else can one turn? The landscape changes as the journey continues. Fields give way to rocky terrain. Steep slopes rise toward distant peaks. Pine forests cover mountainsides with dark green shadows. Occasionally, Heracles passes small shrines standing beside the road. Simple altars, weathered statues, offerings left by travelers seeking divine favor. The scent of incense sometimes lingers in the air. Fresh flowers rest before stone images worn smooth by centuries of devotion. Ancient Greece was filled with such sacred places. The divine felt close, present. Every spring might shelter a nymph. Every grove might belong to a god. Every crossroads might conceal unseen powers. For Heracles, these reminders carry mixed emotions. The gods shaped his life. The gods brought him strength. The gods also brought him suffering. Trust becomes difficult after tragedy. Yet he continues walking toward Apollo's sanctuary, because hope, however fragile, still survives. One evening, he camps beside a stream flowing through a quiet valley. The water reflects moonlight like polished silver. Frogs call from reeds near the bank. Above, countless stars fill the sky, the same stars that watched his birth, the same stars that shone over the crossroads, the same stars that witnessed the destruction of his home. They seem unchanged. Perhaps that is why people often find comfort in them. The heavens endure when human lives become uncertain. As sleep approaches, another dream arrives. Dreams have followed Heracles throughout his life. The lion before Cithaeron, the crossroads, the mist-covered road. Now, a new vision emerges. He stands beside a river. Its waters move silently through darkness. Across the river burns a distant fire. Bright, steady, unreachable. A voice speaks from somewhere beyond sight. Not threatening, not comforting, simply clear. Cross! Nothing more. Then the dream ends. Heracles awakens before dawn. Cold air fills the valley. The stars are beginning to fade. The meaning remains uncertain. Cross what? The river, the past, his guilt. Ancient audiences loved such ambiguity. The most powerful dreams often resist simple interpretation. Their significance unfolds gradually through later events. And so the mystery remains. The journey continues, day after day, mountain after mountain, until at last Delphi appears. You see it long before reaching it. The sanctuary clings to the slopes of Mount Parnassus, overlooking dramatic valleys below. White buildings gleam beneath sunlight. Sacred pathways wind upward through terraces and temples. The setting feels extraordinary, almost unreal. Many visitors described similar reactions. Delphi possessed a reputation unlike any other place in Greece. People believed the center of the world existed here. According to tradition, Zeus once released two eagles from opposite ends of the earth. Their paths met above Delphi. The location became sacred, a meeting point between human and divine. The sanctuary bustles with activity. Pilgrims arrive from distant cities. Priests move between temples. Offerings fill courtyards and treasury buildings. The scent of incense mingles with mountain air. Bronze statues catch the sunlight. Sacred fires burn continuously. You climb the winding path beside Heracles. Stone beneath your feet feels worn smooth by generations of travelers. Voices echo softly among marble structures. Everywhere people seek answers. Questions about war. Questions about harvests. Questions about marriages and journeys. Questions about the future. Yet few visitors carry a burden as heavy as Heracles. At the heart of the sanctuary stands the temple of Apollo, the god of light, prophecy, music, truth. Its columns rise proudly against the mountain sky. Inside waits the oracle, the Pythia, the woman through whom Apollo is believed to speak. Ancient historians continue debating exactly how the oracle functioned. Some researchers believe natural gases influenced her trance-like state. Others emphasize religious ritual and sacred tradition. The complete truth remains uncertain. Yet one fact is clear. People believed, and belief gave Delphi immense power. At last, Heracles enters. The temple feels cool and dim after the bright sunlight outside. Torchlight flickers against stone walls. The scent of burning laurel leaves hangs in the air. Silence settles heavily around the sacred chamber. Then the oracle speaks, not as an ordinary woman, as the voice of Apollo. The words vary slightly among surviving traditions, yet their meaning remains consistent. Heracles must undergo purification. He must atone for what happened. And most importantly, he must serve Eurystheus. The name strikes him like a sudden wind. Eurystheus, the child whose birth preceded his own, the man who gained authority through Hera's intervention. The callback reaches all the way back to the prophecy spoken before birth. The prophecy that bent but never broke. Now, its consequences return. Ancient listeners would have recognized the irony immediately. The strongest hero in Greece must obey a weaker ruler, not for days, not for weeks, for years. And through that service, he will perform extraordinary labors, difficult tasks, dangerous tasks, almost impossible tasks. The exact number is not yet clear. The future remains hidden. But the road has appeared. Cross. The dream suddenly makes more sense. The river represented a threshold, a boundary between old life and new. Heracles cannot remain trapped within grief forever. He must cross into something else, not because the past disappears. It never will, because movement remains necessary. The oracle's command offers direction, painful direction, yet direction nonetheless. Outside, the temple clouds drift across the mountain sky. Wind moves through cypress trees. The world feels different now, not easier, not brighter, but clearer. Heracles has received an answer. The answer demands sacrifice, humility, endurance, everything the crossroads once promised. The difficult road stretches ahead once more, and this time it leads toward Eurystheus, toward impossible challenges, toward monsters, wonders, and suffering beyond imagination. The journey has entered a new chapter, and fate waits patiently at its beginning. The mountains of Delphi fade behind him. The words of the oracle remain clear in Heracles' mind, even as the sanctuary disappears into the distance. Apollo has spoken. The path forward has been revealed. Not freedom, not peace, service. The strongest man in Greece must place himself under the authority of Eurystheus, a lesser king, a weaker man, a ruler elevated through the twist of fate that accompanied his birth. The irony would not have been lost on ancient listeners. Indeed, it is one of the reasons the story endured. Greatness often arrives wearing the clothing of humiliation. The difficult road chosen at the crossroads continues demanding its price. You travel now beside Heracles as he approaches the kingdom of Eurystheus. Summer sunlight glitters across rocky hills. Cicadas sing among olive groves. Dust rises from well-traveled roads connecting towns and sanctuaries. The world appears peaceful, yet beneath that peace waits the first labor, the first great trial, the beginning of the deeds that will make Heracles immortal in memory. Eurystheus receives him in a palace hall adorned with painted walls and polished columns. The king sits upon a carved throne. Servants move quietly nearby. Bronze lamps cast warm light across the chamber. At first glance, nothing seems unusual. Yet tension hangs in the air, because everyone present understands the strange relationship between these two men. Eurystheus possesses authority. Heracles possesses strength. One commands, the other obeys, at least in theory. Ancient traditions often emphasize Eurystheus's nervousness. Some portray him as openly fearful. Others describe a more cautious ruler, aware of the dangerous hero standing before him. The details vary, but one theme remains consistent. Eurystheus never entirely trusts the man he controls, and perhaps he has reason. Heracles' reputation now stretches across Greece. The defender of Thebes, the hunter of Cithaeron, the son of Zeus. Such figures are difficult to command comfortably. Nevertheless, the oracle's decree stands. The first labor is announced. A lion terrorizes the region of Nemea. Unlike the beast of Cithaeron, this creature belongs fully to the realm of myth. Its hide cannot be pierced by ordinary weapons. Its strength appears unnatural. Its presence has transformed fertile land into a place of fear. Villages suffer. Travelers vanish. The roads have become dangerous. The task seems impossible, exactly as Eurystheus intends, or perhaps exactly as fate intends. The distinction remains uncertain. You leave the palace behind. The journey toward Nemea begins. The landscape gradually changes. Rolling hills give way to rougher terrain. Forests thicken. Rocky valleys stretch between steep ridges. The farther Heracles travels, the fewer people he encounters. Fear has emptied the region. Many homes stand abandoned. Fields once cultivated now lie untended. Nature slowly reclaims what humans have left behind. The Greeks often used such imagery deliberately. Monsters represented chaos invading civilization. When heroes defeated them, order returned. The struggle carried symbolic meaning beyond physical danger. As evening approaches, Heracles arrives at a small settlement near Nemea. Only a handful of families remain. Their faces reveal exhaustion. Years of fear have worn them down. A shepherd tells him of the lion's attacks. A mother speaks of roads no one dares travel. An elderly farmer describes hearing roars echo through valleys after sunset. Their stories differ in detail, yet all contain the same emotion: hopelessness. The lion feels invincible, and perhaps that belief has become nearly as dangerous as the beast itself. That night, Heracles rests beneath a sky crowded with stars. A small fire crackles beside him. The scent of pine smoke drifts through cool air. Somewhere far away, an owl calls from the darkness. Then another sign appears. Just before sleep claims him, a meteor streaks across the heavens. Bright, silent, gone within moments. A divine omen, a coincidence. Ancient Greeks would certainly have wondered. The answer remains uncertain. Yet Heracles watches until the darkness returns. And somehow the brief flash feels important. A reminder that even the vast sky can change suddenly. Morning arrives. The hunt begins. For days, Heracles explores the valleys of Nemea. He studies tracks, examines broken branches, listens to frightened villagers. The lion remains elusive. Unlike ordinary predators, it seems almost intelligent. As though it understands, it is being pursued. The chase becomes a test of patience, a lesson already hinted at during his years in the wilderness. Strength alone cannot solve every problem. Endurance matters. Observation matters. Persistence matters. At last, he discovers the creature's lair. The cave sits among rocky hillsides, overlooking a narrow valley. Its entrance appears dark and silent. Too silent. The air feels heavy. Birds avoid the area. Even insects seem scarce. Something ancient and dangerous dwells here. Many versions of the myth mention an important detail. The cave possesses two openings, a trap for any hunter foolish enough to enter unprepared. Heracles notices this and adapts. He blocks one entrance with enormous stones. The decision reveals growth. Years earlier, he might have rushed forward, relying only on strength. Now, strategy accompanies power. The difficult road continues teaching its lessons. Then he enters. The cave feels cold. The darkness swallows daylight quickly. Every sound echoes strangely against stone walls. The smell of earth and animal musk fills the air. Ahead something moves, a shadow, then eyes, golden eyes reflecting faint light. The Nemean lion emerges. Its size seems impossible. Its mane ripples like burnished bronze. Its muscles shift beneath skin that no weapon can pierce. For a moment, predator and hero study one another. Neither retreats. The battle begins. Ancient storytellers describe it with admiration. Arrows fail. Spears fail. Bronze weapons prove useless. The lion's hide rejects them all. The prophecy surrounding Heracles demands more, something beyond ordinary warfare. And so the hero does what few others would attempt. He closes the distance. The struggle becomes personal. Hands against claws, strength against strength. Dust fills the cave. Stone echoes with roars and effort. The battle feels less like combat and more like a contest between forces of nature. At last, Heracles seizes the lion. The struggle continues, long, exhausting, relentless. Then gradually the beast weakens. The valley falls silent. The labor is complete. You stand beside Heracles as he emerges from the cave. Sunlight floods across the hills. Fresh air fills his lungs. Below, the countryside stretches peacefully toward the horizon. For the first time in years, the people of Nemea are free. Yet another lesson remains. The lion becomes more than a defeated monster. Its skin becomes a symbol. Unable to cut the hide with ordinary blades, Heracles eventually uses the lion's own claws to skin it. The image carried deep meaning for Greek audiences. Sometimes obstacles contain the tools needed to overcome them. The thing you fear may also teach you. The thing that threatens you may reveal hidden strength. As evening approaches, Heracles drapes the lion's hide across his shoulders. The sight is unforgettable. The hunter now wears the symbol of his victory. The frightened villages below begin lighting celebratory fires. Hope returns. Order returns. And somewhere far away, Eurystheus receives news that the impossible task has been completed. Not everyone greets the news with joy. For if Heracles can defeat the Nemean lion, what challenge will truly stop him? The question lingers beneath the stars. And ahead in the marshes of Lerna, another monster waits. A monster whose wounds multiply when struck. A monster whose venom will one day return in a way no one can yet foresee. The people of Nemea celebrate long into the night. Fires burn across hillsides. Songs drift through valleys once haunted by fear. Families gather beneath the stars, speaking of the hero who entered the lion's cave and returned alive. Hope has returned, yet Heracles does not remain. Heroes rarely stay long where their victories are won. The road continues calling him forward. And somewhere ahead, another labor awaits. You travel beside him as he leaves Nemea behind. The lion's hide rests across his shoulders. Its golden mane moves gently in the wind. Travelers who pass along the road stare in amazement. Some recognize him immediately. Others simply see a towering figure wearing the skin of an impossible beast. Either way, stories begin spreading before he even arrives. Ancient Greece thrived on stories. Merchants carried them between cities. Sailors carried them across seas. Pilgrims carried them from sanctuary to sanctuary. News traveled not through written messages alone, but through memory and conversation. And now Heracles' fame grows with every mile. Yet fame offers little protection from what comes next. When he returns before Eurystheus, the king listens carefully to the account of the lion's defeat. Some traditions say he becomes frightened. Others claim he grows resentful. Perhaps both emotions coexist, because the labor meant to destroy Heracles has instead increased his glory. That outcome creates a problem. A dangerous servant who grows more famous after every task. A hero becoming larger than the authority controlling him. And so Eurystheus announces a second labor. This one seems even more impossible. Far to the south lies the marshland of Lerna. There dwells the Hydra. Its name is already spoken with fear. The Greeks imagined certain places as boundaries between order and chaos. Lerna was one such place. Its waters appeared ancient, mysterious, almost sacred. Some traditions connected it with entrances to the underworld. Others described it as a landscape where the ordinary rules of nature seemed weaker. The perfect home for a monster. You approach Lerna through a changing landscape. The air becomes damp. Reeds sway beside dark pools. Mist hangs low across still water. The scent of mud and stagnant vegetation fills the atmosphere. Birds call from hidden places among the marshes. Yet beneath those sounds lies a strange silence. A feeling that something watches from beyond sight. The Hydra belongs to a different category of monster than the lion. The lion embodied strength. The Hydra embodies persistence. Its most famous feature is terrible. Cut off one head, two more appear. The problem multiplies when attacked. The Greeks understood the symbolism immediately. Some challenges become worse when confronted carelessly. Not every obstacle yields to force. Wisdom matters. Strategy matters. The lesson awaits Heracles. Before entering the marshes, he receives help. A young companion named Iolaus accompanies him. Iolaus is more than a servant. He is a relative, a trusted ally, loyal, capable. The presence of Iolaus introduces an important theme. Ancient heroes often receive assistance at crucial moments. Even the strongest individuals sometimes require support. The Greeks valued friendship deeply. No person stands entirely alone, not even Heracles. Together, they enter the wetlands. Mist curls around their feet. Water glimmers beneath pale sunlight. Insects hum through humid air. The landscape feels ancient, almost primordial, as though the world remembers an earlier age. Then a sign appears. A flock of birds suddenly erupts from nearby reeds. Hundreds take flight at once. The sky darkens briefly with beating wings. Then silence returns. Iolaus pauses. Heracles pauses. Neither speaks. Was it merely chance or a warning? The question lingers. The marsh offers no answer. They continue forward. Eventually, they find the creature's lair. The Hydra waits beside a deep pool, surrounded by reeds and twisted vegetation. Its massive body coils across muddy ground. Multiple heads rise from thick, serpentine necks. Each moves independently. Each watches. Each hisses softly. The sound resembles steam escaping from hidden cracks in the earth. Ancient listeners likely found the image unforgettable. Not one enemy. Many. Not one threat. A multiplying threat. And among the Hydra's heads, one possesses a special significance. Some traditions describe it as immortal, unable to die. Another reminder that certain problems cannot be solved through ordinary means. The battle begins. Heracles attacks. The marsh explodes into movement. Water splashes. Mud flies. The heads strike from different directions. The air fills with hissing and chaos. For a moment, success seems possible. One head falls. Then 2 more emerge. Another falls. 2 more replace it. The situation worsens, exactly as the stories warned. The Hydra grows more dangerous with every attack. Ancient Greek audiences loved such reversals. The obvious solution becomes the wrong solution. Strength alone reaches its limits. And when strength reaches its limits, wisdom must take over. Heracles recognizes the pattern. Iolaus recognizes it as well. Together they adapt. As Heracles severs each head, Iolaus follows behind, carrying a burning torch. The wounds are cauterized immediately. Fire prevents new heads from emerging. The multiplication stops. The tide begins turning. The lesson feels profound. Many difficulties in life require cooperation. The strongest warrior still benefits from another pair of hands. The difficult road continues teaching humility. The struggle lasts a long time. The marsh echoes with conflict. Smoke drifts through mist. The scent of burned flesh mixes with stagnant water. One by one, the Hydra's heads fall. One by one, the wounds are sealed. Eventually, only the immortal head remains. And here, the myth becomes especially interesting, because immortality presents a unique challenge. Some things cannot be destroyed, only contained, only managed, only buried. Heracles cuts away the final head. Unable to kill it, he traps it beneath a massive stone. The solution feels almost philosophical. Not every victory means complete elimination. Some dangers endure. The best you can do is prevent them from causing harm. The Hydra finally lies defeated. The marsh grows quiet. Wind moves through reeds. The water settles. For the first time in years, Lerna breathes peacefully. Yet the story is not finished, because Heracles notices something important. The creature's blood possesses extraordinary properties. Dark, potent, deadly. Its venom carries terrible power. He dips his arrows into it. A practical decision. A warrior making use of available resources. Nothing more, or so it seems. But mythology rarely introduces such details without reason. The venom becomes a prophecy hidden inside a victory. The Greeks often structured stories this way. Consequences travel forward through time. Actions echo long after they occur. And the Hydra's poison will echo farther than anyone can imagine. You remember the dream at Delphi, the voice telling Heracles to cross. You remember the crossroads, the warning from the old shepherd, the prophecy surrounding his birth. Each event continues connecting to the next. The pattern grows clearer. The road of hardship never ends. It simply changes shape. As evening approaches, Heracles and Iolaus leave the marsh behind. The setting sun paints the wetlands gold and crimson. Birds return to places abandoned during the battle. The world feels restored. Another labor completed. Another monster defeated. Yet somewhere beyond sight, fate quietly records every choice, every victory, every wound, every consequence. The Hydra lies dead. Its venom remains. And hidden within that venom sleeps a future tragedy waiting years to awaken. The strongest trees face the hardest storms. The old warning has not yet reached its end. The marshes of Lerna disappear behind him. The scent of reeds and stagnant water fades into memory. The Hydra lies defeated beneath the evening sky, and another labor has passed into legend. Yet Heracles has begun noticing something. Each victory brings no lasting rest. Each success simply reveals another challenge waiting farther down the road. Perhaps this is what the difficult path at the crossroads truly meant. Not a single hardship, a lifetime of them. You travel beside him as he returns once more to Eurystheus. Autumn has arrived across Greece. The hills glow with muted gold and green. Cool winds sweep down from the mountains. Farmers gather olives beneath silver leaves while shepherds prepare for the colder months ahead. The world feels quieter now, more reflective. The season suits Heracles. Though his fame continues growing, he carries a solemnity that many do not understand. The grief that brought him to Delphi has not vanished. The labors give him purpose, but purpose is not the same as peace. Ancient audiences would have recognized this distinction. Some wounds heal. Others become part of a person's nature. The memory of the quiet house remains one of those wounds. At Eurystheus's court, news of the Hydra's defeat arrives before the hero himself. Servants whisper. Messengers hurry through corridors. The king grows uneasy. The impossible tasks keep ending the wrong way. Heracles survives, again and again. According to some traditions, Eurystheus even hides inside a great bronze storage jar whenever Heracles approaches. Historians continue debating how early this detail entered the myth. Perhaps it emerged later as humorous exaggeration. Perhaps it reflects genuine traditions. No one knows with certainty. Yet the image survived because audiences enjoyed it. The powerful king afraid of his own servant. The contrast feels memorable. When Heracles appears before him, Eurystheus announces the next labor. This task differs from the previous two. No cave, no monstrous battle, no venomous terror lurking in dark waters. Instead, Heracles must capture the Ceryneian hind, alive. The command surprises many, even Heracles. The hind is sacred to Artemis, goddess of the hunt and wilderness. Swift beyond imagination, beautiful, untouchable. To harm it would risk offending a powerful deity. To capture it seems nearly impossible. Immediately, the labor becomes something different, not a test of strength, a test of restraint. Ancient Greece valued this lesson deeply. Power matters, control matters more. And so Heracles begins another journey. The hind ranges across forests, mountains, and remote valleys. Its hooves move faster than arrows. Its golden antlers catch sunlight like polished metal. Many hunters have pursued it. None have succeeded. You enter a world of forests and high ridges beside Heracles. The air smells of pine and cold stone. Mountain streams rush through narrow valleys. Eagles drift above distant cliffs. The landscape feels untouched, sacred, as though Artemis herself watches from hidden groves. Days pass, then weeks, then months. The hind remains elusive. Ancient sources often emphasize the extraordinary length of the chase. Some traditions claim it lasted an entire year, a remarkable detail, because it reveals something important. The labor demands patience rather than conquest. Heracles cannot simply overpower the situation. He must endure, observe, wait. The same man who strangled serpents and defeated monsters now spends seasons tracking a single creature through the wilderness. The contrast carries symbolic meaning. Life requires different strengths at different times. One evening during the long pursuit, Heracles sleeps beside a mountain spring. The water emerges from stones so clear that every pebble remains visible beneath the surface. Moonlight reflects across its surface. The forest around him grows silent. Then another dream arrives. Dreams continue following him through the years. This one feels unusual. He stands beneath towering trees. A silver deer watches him from between the trunks. Not running, not afraid, watching. Then a woman's voice echoes through the forest. Take only what is given. The words drift away with the wind. Nothing more follows. When dawn comes, the dream remains vivid. What does it mean? A warning from Artemis. A message from fate. Another mystery enters the story. And like many mysteries, it refuses immediate explanation. Eventually, the pursuit reaches its conclusion. Near a riverbank, after months of careful tracking, Heracles finally captures the hind without causing serious harm. The feat requires skill rather than force, respect rather than domination. And according to several traditions, Artemis herself appears. The goddess confronts him. Her silver bow gleams beneath woodland light. The sacred deer stands nearby. The encounter feels tense. The goddess demands an explanation. Why has her sacred creature been taken? Why has a mortal hunter dared interfere? Heracles answers honestly. He explains the command imposed by Eurystheus, the burden of the labors. the obligation created by Apollo's oracle. Truth matters here. The Greeks often portrayed honesty as a form of courage. Artemis listens. Then, remarkably, she allows him to continue. Perhaps she respects his sincerity. Perhaps she understands the larger design of fate. Ancient traditions offer different interpretations. Whatever the reason, disaster is avoided. The labor succeeds, and Heracles learns another lesson. Not every challenge requires violence. The difficult road continues broadening his character. The hind-delivered Eurystheus quickly announces yet another task. This time danger returns. A monstrous boar ravages the region of Mount Erymanthus. Fields lie destroyed. Villages suffer. Travel has become hazardous. The pattern feels familiar. Once again, chaos threatens civilization. Once again, a hero must respond. Winter now approaches. Snow appears upon distant peaks. Cold winds sweep across mountain passes. You accompany Heracles into a harsher landscape. The forests feel darker. The air feels sharper. Streams freeze along their edges during the night. The hunt for the Erymanthian boar becomes a contest against both beast and environment. The creature proves enormous, powerful, savage. Its tusks gleam like ivory knives. Yet unlike the lion or hydra, the boar need not die. Eurystheus has ordered its capture. Another subtle test. Another exercise in restraint. The chase drives higher into snow-covered mountains. The world turns white and silent. Breath hangs visibly in the air. Footprints mark fresh snow beneath gray skies. The scene feels almost dreamlike. Ancient Greek myths rarely linger on winter landscapes, making this labor especially memorable. At last, Heracles succeeds. Using terrain and endurance, he drives the boar into deep snow where movement becomes difficult. The beast exhausts itself. Capture follows, not through overwhelming force, through patience. Again, a lesson repeated until it becomes impossible to ignore. As he carries the struggling boar back toward civilization, people stare in amazement. Children point. Farmers gather along roadsides. The image becomes famous. Some later artists depict Eurystheus hiding inside his bronze jar while the captured boar approaches. Fear meeting strength. Authority meeting reality. The symbolism remains powerful. Another labor completed. Another challenge overcome. Yet beneath these victories, something else continues growing. Wisdom. The hero who once struggled to control his anger now spends months pursuing sacred creatures without harming them. The transformation remains incomplete, but it is real. And somewhere beyond the winter horizon, greater challenges still wait. For the road of hardship stretches onward, always onward, toward filth and kings, toward birds of bronze, toward trials no one has yet imagined. And above it all, the stars continue watching, silent witnesses to a destiny still unfolding. Winter slowly loosens its grip upon Greece. Snow retreats from the lower hills. Streams swell with melting water. Almond trees bloom with pale blossoms that seem almost luminous beneath the early spring sun. The world awakens once more, and still the labors continue. You travel beside Heracles as he leaves the mountains behind. The capture of the sacred hind and the great boar has added new chapters to his growing legend. Yet, something more important has also happened. He is changing. The transformation remains gradual, almost invisible from day to day, but it is there. The furious youth who once struck down Linus in anger feels increasingly distant. The hero who pursued the hind for a year learned patience. The hunter who captured the boar learned restraint. Strength remains his greatest gift. Yet wisdom has begun growing beside it. Ancient Greek audiences valued this development deeply. Raw power impresses. Character inspires. The difficult road at the crossroads continues revealing its meaning. When Heracles returns before Eurystheus, however, the king sees little reason for admiration. The previous labors have failed to destroy him. Instead, they have made him stronger, more famous, more respected. Each success becomes another reminder that fate seems to favor the son of Zeus. And so Eurystheus devises new challenges, challenges that appear impossible for different reasons. Not because monsters guard them, because they seem beneath a hero's dignity. The next labor takes Heracles to the kingdom of Augeas. King Augeas possesses vast herds of cattle, thousands upon thousands. For years, their stables have never been properly cleaned. The result is exactly what one might imagine. Filth, decay, a stench so overwhelming that travelers avoid the region entirely. The task sounds absurd. Clean the stables, not conquer a monster, not save a city. Clean. Many ancient listeners likely smiled at the contrast. After battling lions and hydras, Heracles receives the work of a laborer. Yet mythology often hides important lessons within unlikely situations. The Greeks understood that pride can become a trap. A person unwilling to perform humble work may never achieve true greatness. You arrive beside Heracles at Augeas's lands. The smell reaches you before the stables themselves become visible. It hangs heavily in the air, a mixture of waste, damp earth, and neglect accumulated over many years. The scale of the problem seems impossible. Thousands of animals, years of filth. No ordinary worker could solve it quickly. And perhaps that is precisely the point. King Augeas himself receives Heracles with skepticism. The ruler studies the famous hero carefully. His expression reveals amusement more than respect. Another powerful man testing Heracles. Another king measuring him against impossible expectations. The Greeks filled their myths with such rulers. Not all obstacles wear claws or scales. Some wear crowns. Augeas believes the task cannot be completed. Perhaps he hopes to embarrass the hero. Perhaps he simply underestimates him. Either way, the challenge stands. Heracles surveys the vast stables. Then he begins thinking, not fighting, thinking. This distinction matters. Ancient audiences often forget how clever Heracles could be. His strength dominates popular memory. Yet many labors require ingenuity. This one especially. Nearby rivers flow through the countryside. Their waters move swiftly toward distant valleys. As Heracles studies the landscape, a solution begins forming. Simple, elegant, unexpected. Instead of carrying away the filth piece by piece, he redirects the rivers themselves. The channels are altered. The water changes course. Then nature performs the labor. A tremendous flow rushes through the stables. Years of waste disappear beneath powerful currents. The impossible task ends within a single day. The lesson feels profound. Some problems yield not to effort alone, but to perspective. The right solution can transform impossibility into simplicity. Ancient storytellers appreciated such moments. They revealed intelligence hidden beneath physical power. Yet the victory brings little satisfaction. Augeas refuses proper recognition. Promises are broken. Rewards are withheld. Bitterness replaces gratitude. Another reminder that success does not guarantee fairness. The strongest trees face the hardest storms. The old warning continues echoing through Heracles' life. Not every storm comes from nature. Some arrive through human dishonesty. Eventually, the hero departs. The labor completed. The relationship ruined. The road stretching onward once again. Spring deepens. Wildflowers cover hillsides. Warm winds return from the sea. Yet the next challenge leads toward another place haunted by fear. Lake Stymphalus. The region appears beautiful at first glance. Still water reflects the sky. Reeds sway along the shoreline. Forests surround the lake with deep green shadows. But appearances deceive. The Stymphalian birds dwell here. Their feathers gleam like bronze. Their beaks cut like blades. Their numbers seem endless. They descend upon fields and villages without warning. People live in constant fear. The birds represent another form of chaos. Not a single monster, a swarm. A threat impossible to confront directly. You walk beside Heracles through the forests surrounding the lake. The air feels humid beneath the trees. Sunlight filters through leaves in shifting patterns. Occasionally, a metallic screech echoes from above. The sound feels unnatural, sharp, predatory. Then another omen appears. As evening approaches, dark clouds gather unexpectedly. Thunder rumbles across distant hills. Yet no rain falls. The strange storm remains suspended upon the horizon, watching, waiting. A sign from Zeus, a warning. The answer remains hidden. Ancient listeners would have recognized the mystery immediately. Not every divine message arrives with clear instructions. Sometimes uncertainty itself becomes the message. The birds remain difficult to approach. Their numbers provide protection. Any direct attack risks failure. Fortunately, help arrives. Athena, goddess of wisdom, has watched Heracles throughout his journey. The daughter of Zeus often supports heroes who combine courage with intelligence, and now she offers assistance. According to ancient tradition, she provides a bronze rattle crafted by the divine smith Hephaestus, a simple object, yet powerful. Once again, the solution does not rely entirely upon strength. Heracles climbs a rocky hill overlooking the lake. The birds gather below, hundreds, perhaps thousands. Their metallic feathers flash beneath shifting sunlight. Then he shakes the rattle. The sound erupts across the landscape, loud, strange, unfamiliar. The birds panic. They rise into the sky all at once. The spectacle must have seemed extraordinary. Bronze wings filling the heavens. A storm of feathers and shrieks. Chaos taking flight. Now exposed, the birds become vulnerable. Heracles acts swiftly. The poisoned arrows from the Hydra return. A callback reaching back through earlier victories. The venom collected at Lerna now serves a new purpose. Arrow after arrow flies upward. The flock scatters. Many birds fall. The survivors flee far from Greece. The danger ends. Yet, as he retrieves his arrows afterward, Heracles pauses. The dark venom still glistens upon their tips. The Hydra's poison. The hidden consequence waiting within an old victory. For a moment he seems thoughtful, perhaps uneasy, perhaps merely tired. The future remains concealed, but the poison remains, and fate remembers. The lake grows peaceful once more. The metallic cries fade into distance. Villages celebrate. Fields become safe. Another labor reaches its conclusion, yet Heracles senses something. The challenges are changing, growing broader, leading farther from home. The road ahead stretches beyond forests and kingdoms, toward distant lands, toward foreign shores, toward encounters that will test not only his strength and patience, but his understanding of the world itself. And somewhere above the evening clouds, the gods continue watching, silent, patient, waiting to see how far the difficult road will carry him. The cries of the Stymphalian birds fade into memory. The forests around the lake grow quiet once more. Villages return to their ordinary rhythms. Farmers walk safely through fields that had long been shadowed by fear. Another labor has ended. Another fragment of chaos has been pushed back. Yet the road before Heracles continues stretching toward distant horizons. The labors are changing now. The earlier tasks often kept him within familiar lands. Mountains, valleys, forests, and marshes of Greece shaped those first trials. The next challenges will carry him farther, beyond familiar borders, beyond comfortable certainties, toward foreign kingdoms where different customs, dangers, and wonders await. You travel beside him beneath a bright summer sky. The sea breeze drifts inland from distant coasts. Cicadas sing among olive groves. Merchants move along dusty roads, carrying goods from regions far beyond Greece. The ancient world feels connected, not through maps and empires, through ships, stories, trade, and travelers willing to cross great distances. The Greeks viewed distant lands with a mixture of fascination and uncertainty. The farther one traveled from home, the more mysterious the world became. Monsters often waited at the edges of known geography, or so the stories claimed. And now Heracles begins moving toward those edges. When he appears once again before Eurystheus, the king announces another labor. This time, the challenge concerns a bull. Not an ordinary bull, the magnificent Cretan bull. Its origins remain uncertain, even within mythology. Some traditions connect it to the sea god Poseidon. Others weave it into older stories involving kings and divine punishments. The surviving accounts differ, yet all agree on one point. The creature is enormous, powerful, and dangerous. It roams the island of Crete, devastating fields and frightening entire communities. To capture it alive seems nearly impossible. Exactly the sort of task Eurystheus prefers. The journey begins at a harbor. You stand beside Heracles as ships sway gently against wooden docks. Sailors load supplies. Seabirds circle overhead. The smell of salt water fills the air. Ancient Greece depended upon the sea. The sea connected cities, fed populations, carried merchants and armies alike. Yet it also inspired fear. Storms could appear suddenly. Ships could vanish. The horizon concealed countless uncertainties. As Heracles boards a vessel bound for Crete, the familiar mainland slowly fades behind him. Days pass upon open water. Waves strike the hull rhythmically. The sun rises and sets over endless blue distances. At night, the stars appear astonishingly bright. Sailors navigate by their patterns. The heavens become both map and companion. One evening, while standing alone near the bow, Heracles notices something unusual. A distant flash of lightning appears upon a cloudless horizon. No thunder follows. No storm emerges. The light appears once, then vanishes. A divine sign, a reminder of Zeus. Another mystery joins the journey. The sea offers no explanation. At last, Crete rises from the horizon. Mountains climb toward the sky. Rocky coastlines meet brilliant blue water. Villages cling to hillsides overlooking fertile plains. The island feels ancient, rich with stories. Many centuries later, archaeologists would uncover traces of remarkable civilizations here. Palaces, artwork, memories preserved beneath the earth. Even in myth, Crete occupies a special place, a land where humans and gods seem unusually close. The bull is not difficult to find. Its destruction has become legendary. Fields lie ruined. Stone walls stand broken. Farmers speak of its strength with equal parts fear and admiration. The creature itself appears magnificent. Its hide gleams beneath sunlight. Its muscles ripple with astonishing power. It resembles a force of nature more than an animal. Ancient Greeks often portrayed bulls as symbols of vitality, fertility, and untamed strength. Capturing such a creature carried meaning beyond the physical task. Once again, Heracles confronts raw power. This time, he must master it without killing it. The struggle unfolds across open countryside. Dust rises beneath pounding hooves. The bull charges repeatedly. Its horns flash in the sun. Yet eventually, Heracles prevails. Using strength, patience, and timing, he subdues the beast. The labor ends. The creature is transported back toward Greece. Another impossible challenge completed. Yet no rest follows. The next command arrives swiftly. Travel north. Find the mares of Diomedes. The task sounds strange at first. Then the details emerge. These horses belong to King Diomedes of Thrace. And according to the stories, they feed upon human flesh. The image horrified ancient audiences. Horses usually represented nobility, travel, and civilization. These mares invert that symbolism completely. They become symbols of corrupted order, beauty transformed into terror. You journey beside Heracles across foreign shores. The landscape changes once again. Rolling Greek hills give way to wilder regions. The climate feels different. The accents of local people sound unfamiliar. Everywhere reminders appear that the world extends far beyond Greece itself. The Greeks often imagined foreign lands as places where ordinary rules weakened, not because those places were truly less civilized, but because distance naturally creates mystery, and mystery feeds mythology. Thrace feels rugged, windswept, untamed. The kingdom of Diomedes reflects its ruler. Harsh, violent, unforgiving. The king himself becomes part of the challenge. Unlike the lion or hydra, this labor involves human choices, human cruelty. Diomedes has shaped the horror surrounding the mares. The animals reflect their master. Ancient myths frequently explore this theme. Leaders influence the world around them. Good rulers create order. Corrupt rulers spread suffering. The confrontation eventually arrives. Ancient sources preserve different versions of the details. The battle unfolds. The king falls, and the mares are finally subdued. Order returns where chaos once ruled. The symbolism remains clear. Not every monster possesses scales or claws. Some wear crowns. As evening settles across Thrace, Heracles stands beside the quieted horses. The wind moves through tall grass. The sky glows red and gold above distant hills. For a moment, the scene feels peaceful. Yet another thought enters his mind. The world is larger than he once imagined. Each labor reveals new lands, new peoples, new challenges. The boundaries of his understanding continue expanding. The difficult road teaches many lessons. Some involve strength, some involve humility, and some involve perspective. A person who never leaves home can know only part of the world. A hero following fate must learn to see farther. Night arrives. Stars emerge overhead. Campfires flicker beneath the darkness. As Heracles watches the heavens, he remembers earlier signs. The meteor above Nemea, the dream at Delphi, the silver hind beneath moonlit trees. the lightning over the sea. Fragments of mystery scattered across years. Do they form a pattern? Ancient storytellers often suggested they might. Yet certainty remains elusive. The future still hides behind veils. And somewhere far ahead, another labor waits. One involving a queen, a sacred girdle, and a meeting that might have ended peacefully, if only the gods had allowed it. The winds of Thrace fall behind. The sea once again becomes Heracles' companion as he journeys toward another distant shore. The mares of Diomedes have been subdued. Another labor has entered the growing tapestry of legend. Yet the road continues, always the road. The crossroads of long ago feels more significant with every passing year. The easier path has vanished into memory. The difficult one stretches endlessly forward. You stand upon the deck of a ship as it moves across open water. Waves roll beneath the hull with steady rhythm. Salt hangs in the air. White seabirds drift upon invisible currents. The horizon remains vast. Ancient sailors often describe the sea as a place between worlds, neither land nor sky. A realm of uncertainty, a place where stories traveled as easily as merchants. And now those stories carry Heracles toward one of the most unusual encounters of his life. When he returned to Eurystheus, the king announced another labor. This time, the goal was not a monster, not a beast, not a cursed animal. Instead, Heracles must obtain the girdle of Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons. The name alone would have fascinated Greek audiences. The Amazons occupied a unique place in Greek imagination. They were warriors, horsewomen, archers, a society governed by women rather than men. To many Greeks, they represented both admiration and mystery. The stories surrounding them varied greatly. Some traditions portrayed them as noble, others emphasized conflict. Historians continue debating how these myths may have been influenced by real cultures living beyond Greece's borders. Archaeological discoveries in later centuries revealed women buried with weapons among certain steppe peoples. Such findings have renewed interest in the origins of Amazon legends. Yet, within the myth, the Amazons remain something larger than history. They represent another way of life, a different possibility, a challenge to familiar assumptions. As the ship approaches their lands, the coastline rises from morning mist. Wide plains stretch inland. Grasslands ripple beneath the wind. Riders appear in the distance, moving with extraordinary confidence. The world here feels open, expansive, different from the crowded cities and mountain valleys of Greece. Heracles steps ashore. The labor seems straightforward. Acquire Hippolyta's girdle. Return home. No battle appears necessary. And that is precisely what makes the story so intriguing. Because for a brief moment, peace seems possible. You travel with the hero toward the Amazon settlement. The scent of wild grasses fills the air. Horses graze across rolling fields. The sky stretches endlessly overhead. Everything feels calm, unexpectedly calm. When Heracles finally meets Hippolyta, the encounter unfolds very differently from previous labors. Ancient traditions vary regarding the details, yet many versions preserve a remarkable theme. The queen receives him respectfully, not with hostility, not with suspicion, with curiosity. Hippolyta herself appears impressive, confident, intelligent, a leader accustomed to command. The girdle she wears symbolizes authority among her people. It is not merely an ornament. It represents status, responsibility, and trust. The two figures study one another, hero and queen. Neither fits simple expectations. Neither behaves like an enemy. Conversation replaces conflict. For a time, some ancient storytellers suggest Hippolyta willingly agrees to provide the girdle. Others describe negotiations that progress favorably. Regardless of the version, one possibility emerges clearly. The labor might end peacefully. The Greeks appreciated such moments because they revealed an important truth. Not every challenge requires violence. The lesson first appeared with the sacred hind. It continues here. Strength possesses value, but diplomacy possesses value too. As evening approaches, a feast is prepared. Torches illuminate the gathering. The smell of roasted meat drifts through the camp. Music carries softly across the plains. For the first time in many years, Heracles finds himself among people who neither fear him nor seek to control him. The atmosphere feels surprisingly warm. Perhaps fate might allow this labor to conclude without tragedy. But fate is not the only force moving through the story. High above Olympus watches, and Hera has not forgotten. The queen of the gods has observed every labor, every success, every growing chapter of Heracles' legend. The prophecy continues unfolding despite her efforts. And now another opportunity appears. Ancient myths often portray divine interference through whispers, rumors, misunderstandings. A small change capable of creating enormous consequences. This labor becomes one of those moments. According to the most familiar tradition, Hera disguises herself and enters the Amazon camp. She spreads a simple lie. The stranger from Greece intends to kidnap their queen. Nothing more, nothing less. The rumor moves quickly. Fear spreads. Suspicion follows. And once suspicion takes root, reason becomes difficult to preserve. The Greeks understood this painfully well. Entire conflicts can emerge from misunderstanding. Entire tragedies can begin with a single false belief. You feel the atmosphere changing around the camp. The warmth fades. The tension grows. Riders begin gathering. Hands move toward weapons. Conversations become urgent. Then chaos arrives. The details differ among surviving accounts. Some emphasize confusion. Others focus upon sudden violence. Yet all versions share the same emotional core. A peaceful resolution slips away. An opportunity vanishes. The storm that never needed to happen suddenly becomes unavoidable. Heracles sees armed Amazons approaching. The Amazons see what they believe is a threat to their queen. Both sides act based upon incomplete understanding. The tragedy unfolds. By the time clarity might have returned, events have moved too far. Hippolyta falls. The girdle is taken. The labor succeeds. Yet success feels hollow. The plains grow quiet afterward. The wind moves through tall grass. The sky remains unchanged above. And still a sense of loss lingers. Because something valuable disappeared here. Not merely a life. A possibility. A different outcome. Ancient audiences often found such stories especially moving. The greatest tragedies are not always inevitable. Sometimes they emerge from misunderstanding, from fear, from choices made without complete knowledge. You stand beside Heracles as he prepares to depart. The girdle rests among his possessions. The task is technically complete. Yet he does not appear triumphant. Perhaps because wisdom brings a difficult realization. Not every victory feels like victory. The difficult road continues teaching its lessons. Some lessons concern strength. Others concern patience. This one concerns consequences. The campfires of the Amazons fade into the distance as the ship carries him away. Night settles across the sea. The stars emerge overhead. And once again, an omen appears. A single bright star reflects perfectly upon the water. Its reflection remains visible far longer than it should. Then a cloud passes. The image disappears. Was it a sign? A reminder? A warning? No answer comes. Only mystery. The same mystery that has accompanied Heracles since before his birth. The prophecy remains unfinished. The road remains long, and far beyond the sea at the very edge of the known world, another labor awaits. A labor involving a giant, a herd of sacred cattle, and a journey so vast that it will carry Heracles toward the place where the sun itself appears to enter the sea. The sea stretches endlessly around the ship. Days pass beneath changing skies. Sunlight dances across waves during the afternoon. At night, the heavens unfold in breathtaking clarity, revealing constellations that sailors have followed for generations. Heracles stands often at the edge of the deck, watching, thinking. The labor involving Hippolyta lingers in memory. The girdle rests safely among his possessions. The task was completed, yet the outcome still feels uneasy. Ancient listeners likely understood why. Not all wounds come from defeat. Some emerge from victories that cost too much. The difficult road continues revealing unexpected lessons. And now that road leads farther than ever before. When Heracles returns once again before Eurystheus, the king announces another labor. Travel to the far western edge of the world. Bring back the cattle of Geryon. The command sounds almost impossible, not because the cattle themselves are especially dangerous, because of where they dwell, beyond familiar lands, beyond ordinary maps, near the place where the sun descends each evening into the great waters of ocean. To ancient Greeks, the western horizon carried enormous mystery. The farther west one traveled, the less certain geography became. Known lands gradually faded into legend, and legend often gave birth to monsters. The cattle belonged to Geryon, a being unlike any encountered before. Ancient traditions describe him differently. Some portray him with 3 bodies joined together. Others describe 3 heads. Still others offer variations that changed over centuries. Historians continue discussing how such images evolved through oral storytelling. Yet, regardless of the exact form, Geryon represented extraordinary power, a guardian standing at the edge of the known world. The labor begins. You accompany Heracles on a journey unlike any previous task. Weeks become months. Mountains rise and fall behind him. Rivers are crossed. Foreign cities appear and disappear. The familiar landscapes of Greece slowly vanish. Every step carries him farther from home. The world expands. That expansion held deep significance for ancient audiences. The labors of Heracles are not merely physical challenges. They are explorations. Each journey pushes the boundaries of what people imagine possible. The hero becomes a traveler as much as a warrior. You walk through deserts where the sun burns fiercely overhead. Heat shimmers above the earth. The air feels heavy and dry. Even Heracles grows weary. One famous tradition preserves an extraordinary moment during this part of the journey. The heat becomes almost unbearable. Frustrated, exhausted, and angry, Heracles raises his bow toward the sun itself. The gesture seems impossible, almost absurd. Yet it captures something deeply human. The desire to challenge whatever causes suffering. The impulse to confront even the heavens. According to the myth, the sun god Helios notices. Rather than becoming offended, he admires the hero's boldness. The response surprises many listeners. Ancient mythology often rewards courage, even when it appears reckless. Helios offers assistance. A golden cup, not an ordinary cup. A magical vessel capable of crossing the waters surrounding the world. Some scholars interpret this episode symbolically. Others see traces of older solar myths woven into Heracles' story. The exact meaning remains uncertain. Yet the image endured. The hero sailing westward inside the cup of the sun, crossing regions beyond ordinary human reach. You can almost see it. The sea stretching endlessly in all directions. The sky glowing with evening colors. The golden vessel moving silently toward distant horizons. The scene feels dreamlike, as though reality itself has begun shifting. And perhaps it has. Because Heracles approaches one of the most famous landmarks in mythology. The Pillars, 2 mighty promontories standing on either side of a narrow passage between seas. Later generations would associate them with the region near modern Gibraltar. Ancient Greeks saw them as markers, boundaries, a threshold between familiar waters and the unknown beyond. According to tradition, Heracles himself may have created them. Some versions claim he split a mountain apart. Others offer different explanations. The stories vary. The symbolism does not. Every journey eventually reaches a point where the known world ends. The pillars represent that moment. You stand beside Heracles as he gazes westward. The ocean extends beyond sight. The sun sinks slowly toward the horizon. Golden light spreads across the water. The beauty feels almost overwhelming, yet danger still waits ahead. Eventually, the island of Erythea appears, the land of Geryon, the place where the sacred cattle graze. At first, the island seems peaceful. Green pastures stretch toward gentle hills. The sea sparkles nearby, but appearances deceive. The cattle are guarded, first by a fearsome herdsman, then by a monstrous dog named Orthrus. The dog belongs to the same terrible lineage as Cerberus, guardian of the underworld. Ancient audiences would have recognized the connection immediately, a reminder that the boundaries between different myths often overlap. The encounter comes swiftly. Orthrus attacks. The struggle ends. The guardian falls. The herdsman follows. The path toward the cattle opens. Yet these victories merely announce the arrival of the true challenge. Geryon appears. The giant strides across the landscape. His unusual form seems almost unreal beneath the setting sun. 3 bodies, or perhaps 3 aspects of one being. The exact image shifts depending upon the tradition. The effect remains the same. This is not an ordinary opponent. The battle unfolds beneath a sky painted red and gold. The ocean glitters nearby. Wind sweeps across open fields. The setting feels majestic, appropriate. two extraordinary figures meeting at the edge of the world. Ancient poets loved such scenes. The grandeur elevates the conflict beyond mere combat. It becomes symbolic, order confronting chaos, mortality confronting the unknown. The struggle is fierce, yet it does not last forever. The poisoned arrows from the Hydra return once again. Another callback reaching across years of labor. The venom collected in the marshes of Lerna continues shaping destiny. Geryon falls. The cattle are won. The labor succeeds. But the Hydra's poison remains present, quietly waiting, like a prophecy hidden inside a weapon. As evening settles over Erythea, Heracles gathers the herd. The task is complete, or nearly complete, because winning the cattle proves easier than bringing them home. The long return journey still lies ahead, and along that journey come countless smaller adventures preserved in scattered traditions. Lost cattle, strange encounters, foreign rulers, new obstacles. The road never truly simplifies, yet through all of it, one feeling grows stronger. Heracles is no longer merely a hero of Greece. His story now spans the world. The horizons that once seemed distant have become familiar. The boundaries that once inspired fear have been crossed. The dream at Delphi continues unfolding. Cross, the command echoes across the years. Cross rivers, cross mountains, cross seas, cross the limits of what seems possible. Night falls over the western ocean. Stars emerge one by one. The cattle settle quietly. The wind carries the scent of salt and distant rain. And somewhere beyond sight, another labor waits. A labor involving golden apples, a dragon that never sleeps, and a burden so immense that for a brief moment, Heracles himself will carry the heavens upon his shoulders. The western horizon fades behind him. The cattle of Geryon have been won. The long journey to the edge of the world has become another chapter in the growing legend of Heracles. Yet even after crossing seas, deserts, mountains, and unknown lands, the labors continue. The road still stretches forward, and now it leads toward one of the greatest mysteries in all of Greek mythology, the golden apples of the Hesperides. You travel beside Heracles through lands that seem increasingly dreamlike. Years of labor have transformed him, not merely in reputation, in spirit. The young man who once wandered the hills of Thebes searching for purpose feels very far away now. The difficult road has shaped him. Patience, endurance, humility, wisdom. Each challenge has left its mark. Yet perhaps the greatest lesson still lies ahead. When Heracles appears before Eurystheus once more, the king announces the next labor. Bring back the golden apples. Simple words. Impossible task, because almost no one knows where the apples are kept. The orchard belongs to the Hesperides, mysterious guardians dwelling near the western edge of the world. Some traditions place them beside ocean. Others locate them beyond distant mountains. Still others suggest the orchard exists somewhere between earthly geography and divine reality. Historians continue debating how these traditions evolved. The uncertainty itself became part of the myth. The garden feels less like a place, more like a mystery, and mysteries require searching. You walk beside Heracles as another journey begins. The landscape changes constantly. Valleys give way to mountains. Mountains give way to plains. Rivers cut through distant territories. Everywhere he goes, he asks questions. Travelers, shepherds, kings, prophets. Few possess answers. Many offer conflicting directions. The search itself becomes a challenge. Ancient audiences appreciated this aspect of the labor. Not every quest begins with a clear map. Some require wandering. Some require uncertainty. Life itself often works that way. One evening, after many weeks of searching, Heracles reaches a lonely shoreline. The sea stretches beneath moonlight. Waves strike black rocks with steady rhythm. The stars shine brilliantly overhead. And there he encounters a strange figure, an old sea god. Some traditions identify him as Nereus. Others offer different names. The details vary, yet the encounter remains important. The sea god knows the location of the garden, but he does not reveal it willingly. Instead, he changes shape repeatedly. A lion, a serpent, water, fire. Ancient mythology often uses transformation to symbolize elusive truth. Answers rarely come easily. They shift. They resist. They demand persistence. Heracles holds on, no matter what form appears. Eventually, the sea god yields. The secret is revealed. The path becomes clearer. Yet another mystery remains. The garden is protected not only by the Hesperides. A dragon guards the apples, a sleepless dragon, an ancient creature that never abandons its watch. The challenge feels impossible, exactly as the greatest labors should. The journey continues. Days become weeks. The world seems increasingly distant from ordinary human life. Then another extraordinary encounter occurs. Heracles meets Atlas, the Titan, the ancient giant condemned to hold up the heavens themselves. The image would have been familiar to Greek audiences. Atlas standing at the edge of the world, supporting the sky, enduring a burden beyond imagination. You approach that place beside Heracles. The atmosphere feels strange, sacred. The air seems heavier, the horizon wider, as though the boundaries of the world have thinned. And there stands Atlas, immense, ancient, the weight of heaven resting upon his shoulders. Clouds drift above him, stars seem almost within reach. The sight inspires wonder and perhaps sadness, because Atlas represents endurance without rest, responsibility without relief. Many listeners likely felt sympathy for him. Even titans could suffer. Heracles explains his quest, the golden apples, the dragon, the impossible task. Atlas listens carefully. Then a possibility emerges. The Titan knows the orchard. He knows the route. He knows how to reach the apples. And unlike Heracles, he can travel there directly. A bargain takes shape. Atlas will retrieve the apples. In return, Heracles will temporarily bear the weight of the heavens. The proposal sounds simple, until you consider what it truly means. Carry the sky, for a moment, for an hour, for however long it takes. The burden feels unimaginable, yet Heracles agrees. The difficult road has never offered easy alternatives. Atlas slowly shifts the weight. Then Heracles takes it. Ancient storytellers lingered on this moment, and it is easy to understand why. The strongest hero in the world suddenly faces a challenge beyond physical strength. The heavens settle upon his shoulders. The weight feels infinite, the pressure immense. You stand beside him in imagination and feel the grandeur of the scene. Clouds drifting overhead, the earth stretching beneath distant horizons, the stars waiting beyond daylight, the entire structure of the cosmos resting above. The symbolism runs deep. For years, Heracles has carried grief, responsibility, fate. Now those invisible burdens become visible. The strongest man in Greece carries the world itself. Meanwhile, Atlas departs. The Titan reaches the orchard, the dragon, the Hesperides, the golden apples. The details vary among traditions. Some emphasize the dragon. Others focus upon the garden's beauty. Either way, Atlas succeeds. The apples are obtained. The labor should be complete. Yet another complication emerges. Atlas returns carrying the fruit. And suddenly, he has an idea. Perhaps he does not wish to resume his old burden. Perhaps he enjoys freedom too much. The Titan suggests a new arrangement. He will deliver the apples himself. Heracles can continue holding the heavens forever. The proposal reveals another lesson. Success often creates new challenges. The story is never quite finished. Fortunately, wisdom has grown alongside strength. The young hero who once relied solely on force no longer exists. Heracles thinks carefully. Then he agrees, or appears to agree. He asks Atlas to take the heavens back briefly while he adjusts his position. The request sounds reasonable. Atlas accepts. The weight transfers once more, and in that instant, Heracles retrieves the apples and departs. The solution depends not upon strength, but cleverness. The Greeks loved this ending. Intelligence triumphing where power alone could not. The difficult road continues teaching new lessons. As evening approaches, Heracles stands once more beneath an ordinary sky. The apples gleam with golden light. The labor has succeeded, yet the experience remains unforgettable. Few mortals have carried the heavens. Few have stood beside Atlas. Few have traveled so close to the edges of cosmic mystery. You remember earlier dreams, the crossroads, the mist-covered road, the voice at Delphi. Each seemed mysterious at the time. Now they feel connected. The journey keeps expanding. The hero keeps growing. And one final labor waits ahead, perhaps the greatest of all, because it requires a living man to enter the realm of the dead. to descend beneath the earth, to stand before Hades himself, and to return carrying the guardian of the underworld. The stars emerge overhead. The golden apples reflect their light, and somewhere below the world, Cerberus waits, patient, silent, unaware that fate is already moving toward him. The golden apples of the Hesperides no longer belong to distant myth. They rest now in the hands of Heracles. Their light seems almost unreal beneath the night sky, as though they carry a fragment of the sun itself. Yet even this victory does not bring rest. The labors are not finished. They are never truly finished. You travel with Heracles as he returns once more to Eurystheus. The king receives the golden apples with visible unease. Some traditions describe fear in his expression. Others suggest disbelief. How does one continue assigning impossible tasks to a man who keeps completing them? The pattern has become clear to everyone now. Each labor meant to destroy Heracles instead expands his legend. Each attempt at limitation becomes proof of greatness. And so Eurystheus prepares one final challenge, the most dangerous of all, a task not of strength, not of endurance, not even of intelligence alone, a descent into the underworld itself. Bring back Cerberus, the guardian of Hades, the three-headed hound who stands at the gates of the dead. The words fall heavily into silence. Ancient audiences would have felt the shift immediately. This is no longer a labor among living things. This is a crossing into the realm beyond life. The Greeks imagined the underworld as a vast, shadowed domain beneath the earth, not a place of punishment alone, a place of memory, judgment, existence after death. Rivers separated it from the world above. The Styx, the Acheron, waters that no living traveler crossed easily. To enter such a place and return was to challenge the natural order itself. Even Heracles pauses, not from fear exactly, from recognition. The path ahead differs from everything before it. You stand beside him as he prepares for the journey. The world feels quieter now. Even the wind seems subdued. Birdsong is distant. The land of the living stretches around him with unfamiliar fragility, because now he is approaching its opposite. Before departing, some traditions say Heracles is guided by Hermes, messenger of the gods. Psychopomp, guide of souls. Hermes moves between worlds with ease. He understands paths no mortal can see. The Greeks often portrayed him as both playful and profound, a reminder that transition itself is sacred. Another figure sometimes appears in versions of the myth, Athena, goddess of wisdom. Her presence suggests that even divine forces recognize the gravity of what comes next. The descent begins. The land grows darker. Mountains give way to deeper valleys. Eventually, Heracles reaches a place where light itself seems thinner. The entrance to the underworld is not always described consistently in ancient sources. Sometimes it is a cave, sometimes a river, sometimes a symbolic boundary. What matters is the transition, a crossing from life into something beyond it. As he descends, the air cools. The sound of the world above fades. Even time feels altered. The Greeks often imagined the underworld not as a single moment, but as a gradual fading, like sleep deepening into dreamless silence. Eventually, Heracles reaches the banks of the river Styx. The water flows dark and slow, not reflecting light, not offering clarity. Nearby, the ferryman Charon waits. He carries souls across the waters. Ancient listeners knew this image well. The coin placed under the tongue of the dead, the silent crossing, the final passage. But Heracles is not like other travelers. He is still alive, and that fact alone changes everything. Different traditions describe what happens next in varying ways. Some emphasize negotiation, others divine permission. Some suggest Charon is simply overwhelmed by Heracles' presence. Regardless of version, the passage is granted. The hero crosses into the realm of Hades. The atmosphere shifts immediately. The underworld is vast, quiet, heavy with memory. Shades of the dead move through shadowed landscapes. Some wander aimlessly. Others gather near rivers. Some remain silent. Others whisper faintly. Everything feels distant, as though sound itself has lost strength. You walk beside Heracles through this realm and feel its strangeness. Not horror, not comfort, something in between. The Greeks did not always depict the underworld as terrifying. It was inevitable, a place every mortal would eventually reach, sooner or later. But not yet for Heracles. because his journey requires him to go further. At last, he reaches the court of Hades and Persephone. The rulers of the underworld sit upon dark thrones. Their presence is solemn rather than cruel. Hades listens carefully as Heracles explains his purpose: to take Cerberus, to bring him to the world above. A request that seems impossible, even absurd. Cerberus is not merely a beast. He is guardian of boundaries. To remove him would disturb the balance between worlds. Ancient audiences understood the symbolic weight immediately. Some limits exist for reasons beyond strength. They exist to maintain order itself. Yet Heracles is not turned away. Instead, a condition is set. No weapons, no killing, only strength and restraint. Once again, the pattern appears. Power must be guided, not unleashed blindly. You descend deeper with him into the shadows of the underworld. The path becomes increasingly strange. Rivers of fire and sorrow, fields of wandering spirits, echoes of lives once lived. Eventually, Cerberus appears. The three-headed hound rises from darkness, each head watching, each growling. Chains clink softly as it moves. The creature embodies fear made physical. Yet Heracles does not attack. He approaches, slowly, carefully. The struggle that follows is unlike any before. No weapons, no trickery, only strength measured against instinct. The dog resists fiercely. The underworld itself seems to tremble with their conflict. Shadows swirl. Dust rises. The air fills with sound. At last, Heracles succeeds. He restrains Cerberus. Not by destroying it, but by mastering it. The symbolism is unmistakable. The greatest strength is control over chaos, without annihilating it. With Cerberus subdued, Hades grants permission. The condition has been fulfilled. The guardian may be taken to the surface, but only temporarily. The balance must be preserved. The journey back begins. Step by step, Heracles ascends from the underworld. The air grows lighter. Sound returns slowly. Light appears once more at the edges of perception. The boundary between life and death recedes behind him. When he finally emerges, the world of the living feels almost overwhelming. Sunlight, wind, birdsong, everything seems brighter than before, as though he is seeing it anew. Cerberus is brought before Eurystheus. The king reacts with terror. Some versions say he hides again in his great storage jar. The sight of the underworld's guardian proves too much. The labor is complete, but its meaning extends far beyond completion. Heracles has crossed where no mortal should go and returned. The Greeks saw in this journey something profound, a reminder that even death is not absolute in myth, that boundaries, however sacred, can sometimes be crossed. Yet every crossing leaves a trace. You can feel it in Heracles now. Something has changed. He has seen too much, endured too much. The world above no longer feels entirely simple, and far away beyond all lands, beyond all seas, the final stages of his story are already approaching. A poisoned robe, a mountain fire, and a transformation that even the gods will not reverse. Cerberus is returned to the underworld. The gates of Hades close behind him once more, and the boundary between life and death settles back into its ancient stillness. For the first time in many years, the labors are complete. No new command arrives immediately. No messenger appears at the door of Eurystheus' palace. No oracle speaks with fresh demands. Instead, there is silence, a strange kind of silence. You walk beside Heracles as he leaves the court of the king for the final time in this long sequence of trials. The world feels different now, not because it has changed, but because he has. Ancient audiences often understood this moment as a turning point, a hero returning from the edge of fate itself, a man who has passed through every layer of danger the world can offer. Lion, Hydra, marshes, mountains, sea, underworld, each labor a threshold, each victory a transformation. And now, with the labors complete, Heracles is no longer merely a servant bound to impossible tasks. He is something larger and more uncertain. The difficult road has carried him farther than any mortal of his age. Yet, it has not brought peace. Instead, it has reshaped him. In some traditions, Eurystheus formally releases him from service at this point. In others, remnants of obligation linger. Ancient sources do not fully agree. What they do agree on is simpler. Heracles does not return to a normal life. Such a life is no longer available to him. You follow him through regions of Greece where stories of his deeds now travel faster than his own footsteps. Villages recognize him immediately. Children point in awe. Elders speak his name with reverence. Yet admiration is not the same as understanding. Few people truly know what he has endured. Even fewer understand what it has cost. There are moments of rest, brief ones. He visits sanctuaries. He participates in rituals. He receives hospitality in distant cities. The world acknowledges him as a great hero, perhaps the greatest. But recognition cannot undo memory, and memory continues to follow him, especially the memory of Thebes, the quiet house, the life that ended in darkness during Hera's madness. Ancient storytellers rarely describe these memories in detail at this stage. Instead, they allow silence to carry the weight, because some grief does not require explanation, only presence. Heracles moves through this period as though walking between worlds, no longer the servant of Eurystheus, not yet something fully divine, still bound to mortality, still shaped by loss, still uncertain of what comes next. You see him sometimes standing alone at dusk, looking toward distant mountains, or across seas, or into firelight that flickers against temple walls, always thinking, never fully at ease. The Greeks often described such figures as being between states, not fully settled in any category. Hero, but also man. Favored by gods, but also punished by them. At times, he encounters others from earlier in his life. Friends, allies, figures who remember him before legend overtook reality. These meetings are brief, sometimes joyful, sometimes heavy with unspoken awareness, because everyone understands something unspoken now. Heracles does not belong fully to ordinary life anymore, and perhaps never did. One tradition describes his involvement in later conflicts among gods and mortals. Battles that occur after the completion of the labors. Struggles that hint at unrest still following him even in freedom. Yet, even these episodes feel different, less like imposed tasks, more like consequences of a life too large to contain within simple boundaries. Still, there are moments of warmth. Festivals where he is honored. Towns that celebrate his presence. Families that offer him shelter. For a brief time, the world seems capable of accepting him without fear. But even these moments feel fragile, like calm water reflecting a sky that might change at any instant. And somewhere in the distance, another presence begins to reemerge. Deianira, a new chapter forming quietly, not yet fully visible, but approaching. The Greeks often structured mythic lives in cycles. Rise, fall, rest, renewal, and then descent into a final turning point. Heracles now stands in the uncertain space between cycles. The labors are over, but destiny is not. One evening, he travels through a quiet valley at sunset. The sky burns with orange and deep violet. Shadows stretch across fields. The wind moves gently through tall grass. For a moment, everything feels almost peaceful, almost ordinary. Then he pauses. Somewhere ahead, a distant river glimmers beneath fading light. The same sense of crossing returns. Not a physical boundary this time. Something deeper. Memory. Time. Meaning. Ancient listeners might have recognized this as the quiet before the final transformation. Because in Greek mythology, peace rarely lasts long for figures like Heracles. It exists only to make what follows more significant. Far above Olympus watches again. Zeus remains silent. Hera remains patient. The prophecy that began before birth has not yet reached its final form. And somewhere still unseen, a garment soaked in poison waits for its moment to be given. You do not see it yet, but the story is already moving toward it, slowly, inevitably, like a river flowing toward the sea. Heracles continues walking. The sun disappears beneath the horizon. Stars begin to appear, and the long shadow of destiny stretches forward into the night. The years after the labors settle into a quieter rhythm, not peaceful, never truly peaceful, but slower, as though the world itself is holding its breath after witnessing something too vast to fully comprehend. Heracles travels through Greece once more. Cities remember him. Sanctuaries honor him. Kings receive him with cautious respect. Yet something has changed in the way he moves through the world. You notice it in the pauses between his actions. In the moments when he stands still listening to things no one else can hear. The weight of memory has not left him. It never leaves him. Ancient audiences often understood this phase of a hero's life as the long echo after greatness, when the deeds are complete, but the consequences remain alive. During this time, Heracles encounters Deianira. Her story belongs to a different current of myth, yet it now merges with his. She is often described as noble, resilient, a figure shaped by hardship even before their meeting. Different traditions place her origin in different regions of Greece, but all agree on one detail: her life has not been easy. The Greeks rarely gave heroes' companions simple beginnings. Instead, they often surrounded them with parallel struggles, as though fate prefers symmetry in suffering. Heracles and Deianira meet after a time of conflict involving the river god, Achilles. A struggle appears in some versions of the myth, though its details vary. At its heart lies transformation once again. Achilles is said to change form during battle. A bull, a serpent, a river itself, shifting identities, shifting power. The imagery reflects a recurring Greek idea that nature is not fixed. It moves, it resists, it changes shape when challenged. Heracles ultimately prevails, and Deianira becomes his wife. Their union feels different from earlier relationships in his life. Less about glory, more about rest. A home is formed again, not the same as before, but familiar in its hope. You walk beside them through quiet moments, courtyards at dusk, firelight flickering against stone walls, the sound of children playing in distant rooms. For a time, life appears to soften. Even Heracles seems less distant from the world around him. Yet Greek mythology rarely allows peace to remain untouched, because memory always returns, and consequences always follow. During their travels, the couple reaches a river, the Avenus. It flows fast and cold, especially after rain. The current can be dangerous. At the river, a centaur named Nessus appears. He offers to carry Deianira across the water. Heracles, trusting his strength and aware of other dangers, agrees. But myth rarely offers simple solutions. Once across, the centaur attempts betrayal. Different versions describe it differently, but the outcome is consistent. Heracles intervenes, and Nessus is struck down. As he lies dying, something important happens. The centaur speaks, not with anger alone, but with calculation. He gives Deianira a gift, a piece of his blood, or so it is presented. He tells her it will preserve Heracles' love, ensure his loyalty. Ancient audiences immediately recognize the danger hidden within such a moment. A final act disguised as generosity, a curse wrapped in promise. Deianira accepts it, not out of malice, but out of fear. Because even in myth, love is never entirely secure. Time passes. Years settle into domestic life again. Heracles continues traveling, performing deeds, resolving conflicts. The memory of his earlier life remains, but it no longer defines every moment. Yet uncertainty grows quietly within Deianira. She hears rumors. She sees distance where there once was closeness. She feels the fragility of affection. And so she remembers the centaur's words. The gift. A safeguard, a guarantee. Ancient storytellers often portrayed this as a tragic misunderstanding, but deeper beneath it lies something more universal. The fear of loss can distort judgment. Even love can become anxious. Even trust can become fragile. One day news reaches Deianira. Heracles has taken another woman into his life. Different traditions present this differently. Some say it is a captive, others a figure from a conquered city. The details vary, but the emotional core remains. Deianira feels replaced, or forgotten, or threatened by distance she cannot bridge. And so she acts. She sends Heracles a garment, a robe, dipped in the centaur's blood. She believes it will restore affection, preserve connection, ensure he returns to her fully. It is an act born not from cruelty, but from fear disguised as hope. You already feel the weight of this moment. Because mythology often builds its greatest tragedies from intentions that are understandable. The robe is delivered. Heracles receives it, and he wears it. At first, nothing happens. Then, slowly, the truth begins to reveal itself. The centaur's blood was not a blessing. It was venom. The same Hydra-like principle returns. What seems like a gift becomes a hidden mechanism of destruction. Pain begins spreading through the fabric. Not immediately. Not visibly at first, but inevitably. The Greeks often used poison in myth as a symbol of delayed consequence. actions that do not reveal their full meaning until it is too late. Heracles suffers. The robe cannot be removed easily. It clings to him, becoming part of him in the most terrible way. He cries out, and the sound echoes through landscapes that once knew his strength. But strength offers no relief now. No enemy can be struck. No monster can be grasped. No strategy can undo what has already been done. As suffering intensifies, understanding begins to form. The centaur's deception, the misunderstanding, Deianira's fear, the fragile chain of events stretching backward through time. And somewhere within that chain, fate quietly completes its design. Heracles instructs those near him to prepare a funeral pyre, a mountain, a high place where fire can reach the sky. The world begins to narrow again, as it once did in earlier tragedies. You stand with him at the edge of this final ascent. The wind moves across stone. Clouds gather in the distance. The air feels heavier than before, but not with physical weight. With inevitability, Deianira learns the truth. Ancient versions differ on her final act. Some say she takes her own life in grief. Others leave her fate more ambiguous. But all agree on the essential tragedy. Fear created the very loss it tried to prevent. Heracles climbs the mountain. The fire is prepared. The pyre is lit. Flames rise against the evening sky. And for the first time since the labors began, there is no task left to complete, no labor to fulfill, no command to obey, only the end of a mortal life approaching something beyond it. The sky darkens. Stars begin to appear, and somewhere far beyond the clouds, Olympus watches in silence as the final transformation begins to unfold. The mountain rises high above the world of men. Mount Oeta stands silent beneath a fading sky, its slopes carved by wind and time. Pines bend gently in the evening breeze. Far below, valleys stretch into shadow, their outlines softening as daylight withdraws. This is where the story narrows, not outward, but inward. You walk beside Heracles as he ascends the final path. The pain has become something constant now. Not a sharp moment, but a continuous presence, like fire that refuses to die. The robe once meant as a gift of love has become something else entirely. A binding, a revelation, a consequence no one can undo. Ancient audiences often understood this moment as the final proof of a recurring truth, that even love, when shaped by fear, can become destructive. Even hope, when misdirected, can become tragedy. Yet the myth does not move quickly here. It slows, almost respectfully. Because endings deserve space, the wind grows cooler as he climbs. The sky deepens into twilight. Stars appear one by one, as though watching from a distance too vast to measure. Heracles reaches the summit. A great pyre has been prepared, wood stacked carefully, branches arranged in layers. A structure built not for warmth, but for release. The Greeks used fire as purification, as passage, as transformation. And now Heracles stands before it. He is no longer the man who left Thebes years ago, nor the youth who wandered mountains seeking meaning, nor even the hero who completed impossible labors. He is something beyond all those identities now. A figure standing at the boundary between mortal endurance and divine acceptance. The pain intensifies, but his voice remains steady. Those who accompany him in some traditions hesitate. Others remain silent, because what can be said at the edge of such a moment? The world feels suspended. Even nature seems to pause. Wind slows. Birds fall quiet. The sky holds its breath. Heracles speaks, not with anger, not with regret, but with clarity that comes only at the end of long journeys. The labors are complete. The suffering is understood. The path has been walked. What remains is no longer struggle, only transition. He climbs onto the pyre. The flames are not yet fully alive, only waiting, like destiny itself. Ancient traditions often differ at this point. Some say Heracles is aided by companions. Others describe divine intervention. Some emphasize silence, others ritual. Yet all agree on one essential truth. The mortal part of him is about to end. He lays down. The fire is lit. Flames rise slowly at first, then stronger, then higher. They wrap around wood, then stone, then air itself. The mountain glows with orange and gold light. Smoke rises into the night sky. And within that fire, something extraordinary begins to happen. The Greeks believed fire transformed everything it touched. It destroys. But it also reveals, it strips away what is temporary, leaving only what is essential. As the flames consume the pyre, Heracles no longer feels only pain. Something else begins to emerge, a sense of release, as though the weight he has carried for so long is finally loosening its grip. Far above Olympus responds. Clouds gather in unusual formation. Lightning flickers gently, not in violence, but in recognition. Zeus looks toward the earth. Hera watches in silence. Ancient sources differ on her reaction. Some describe continued hostility. Others suggest something closer to recognition of fate fulfilled. Because even among gods, endings carry complexity. The fire burns brighter, higher, and then, according to tradition, something shifts. The mortal part of Heracles begins to fall away, not as destruction, but as transformation. The suffering does not vanish immediately, but it becomes distant, as though it belongs to another layer of existence. The flames continue, and within them, a figure is no longer bound entirely by pain. The Greeks often describe this moment as apotheosis, a difficult word for a simple idea, a mortal becoming divine, not by escape from suffering, but through it. The fire reaches its peak, and then begins to settle. Silence follows, a silence deeper than any before. When the smoke clears, the mountain is still. The pyre is gone, the body is gone, but something remains, not visible, not fully nameable, only present. And in that presence, a new understanding forms within the myth. Heracles has not been erased. He has been transformed. Elsewhere beyond the mortal world, a place opens, not described in detail, not easily imagined. A realm where divine beings dwell, where memory and identity are reshaped, where heroes are no longer defined by struggle alone. In some traditions, Heracles is received there by the gods. In others, he is reconciled with Zeus. And in some, even Hera acknowledges his place among the immortals. The details vary, but the outcome remains consistent. The hero does not end in silence. He continues, in another form, in another state of being. The mountain remains beneath the night sky. Stars shine above Oeta, as if nothing has changed. And yet everything has, because the story that began with serpents in a cradle has reached its final transformation. Not an ending, but a passage. The difficult road at the crossroads has led here, through lions, hydras, kings, gates of the underworld, and finally fire. And now only quiet remains. The kind of quiet that follows something too large for words. The fire on Mount Oeta has faded. Only cooling embers remain, where the pyre once burned against the night sky. The mountain wind moves softly through a blackened wood. Stars shine with quiet steadiness above the world unchanged by what has just occurred. And yet nothing is the same. You stand in the silence that follows transformation. Not death, not survival. Something between those states and beyond them. The Greeks had no simple language for what comes next, so they told stories instead. Heracles, the man who carried impossible burdens, who crossed the underworld, who held the heavens upon his shoulders, does not remain confined to the world of mortals. According to tradition, he ascends, not in body as before, but in essence. A transition unfolds that ancient poets described in different ways. Some say Zeus receives him openly among the Olympian gods. Others suggest reconciliation after years of divine tension. Some traditions even describe Hera, who once opposed him, finally accepting his place among the immortals. The details shift depending on the telling, but the outcome remains steady across centuries of myth. Heracles becomes something more than human memory. He becomes enduring presence. On Olympus, the atmosphere is different from the world below, not because it is louder or brighter, but because it is eternal. Marble halls stretch beyond mortal understanding. Clouds drift between columns like slow-moving rivers of light. Sacred fires burn without consuming themselves. The air carries a stillness that does not exist on earth. Here, Heracles is received, not as a servant, not as a sufferer, but as one who has passed through suffering and emerged transformed. Zeus, in many traditions, welcomes him, not with thunder, but with recognition, because even the king of the gods understands what has occurred. A life shaped by prophecy has reached its final form. The prophecy that began before birth has completed its arc. Strength, struggle, endurance, suffering, transformation. Ancient audiences often understood this not as reward alone, but as completion. A cycle finished, a pattern fulfilled. Heracles is given a place among the gods. Some myths describe his marriage to Hebe, goddess of youth, a union symbolizing renewal, the joining of strength and vitality. Others emphasize his acceptance into the divine order itself, where he no longer labors under command, but exists as part of cosmic balance. Yet, even in divinity, traces of his mortal journey remain. That is perhaps the most important truth of the myth. He does not abandon what he was. He carries it forward. Memory becomes identity. Suffering becomes meaning. The difficult road does not vanish. It becomes part of who he is. Below Olympus, the world of men continues. Thebes remains. Rivers flow. Harvests grow and fade. New generations are born. And the stories of Heracles begin to spread further than ever before. Across Greece, across seas, across centuries, he becomes symbol, not only of strength, but of endurance, of struggle against forces both external and internal, of the idea that suffering does not end meaning, but can shape it. You walk once more through the landscapes that have accompanied his journey. Mountains where he fought lions, marshes where he faced the hydra, forests where he learned patience, seas where he crossed toward unknown lands, even the underworld itself where he stood before death and returned. Every place now feels different, not because they have changed, but because they have been witnessed through his story. Ancient mythology often returns to this idea, that places remember what has happened within them, that landscapes carry echoes of action. That memory is not only human, but world-bound. As the final embers fade on Mount Oeta, the sky begins to lighten in the east, not with fire, but with dawn. A new day arrives, quiet, unremarkable, and yet it feels different, because the story of Heracles in its mortal form has reached completion. But stories in Greek mythology rarely end completely. They transform. They continue in worship, in art, in ritual and memory. Temples will be built in his honor, prayers offered, statues carved. His image will stand at crossroads, at sanctuaries, at the edges of cities and fields, not as a reminder of one moment, but of many, of a life lived at the edge of human and divine experience. And in that way, Heracles remains present, not as a man who once lived, but as a force that continues to be remembered. The Greeks understood heroes as bridges between mortal and immortal, between suffering and meaning, between fear and courage, between limitation and possibility. And so as the final light spreads across the sky, his story does not disappear. It settles into memory, into myth, into the quiet space where all great stories eventually rest. The wind moves gently across the mountain. The world continues turning. And somewhere in the silence between stars, the name of Heracles lingers, not as an ending, but as something that still echoes, softly, endlessly, like breath before sleep, like a story that never truly leaves you.